It's my duty to please the booty.
And Muzz got mad at me, the coach said, he goes, Jesus Christ, why don't you just wear 2 nines? And I went, okay.
I'll switch the call.
Please never do that.
Yep. So...
Hello, everybody. It's the Wit Dog here. I'm with my boy, Paul Biznasty Bissonette, and this is episode 515 of Spittin Chiclets podcast, coming to you fresh with some interesting news going around the league. First, I want to say hello to Biz. What is going on, buddy? How was the weekend? And where are you at now? Is it still Jackson? Are we up to Van, Victoria?
I am currently in Vancouver, and my tours are pretty much done for the next 8 weeks. I'm going to be laying low. I have a home base, and actually before we hopped on, I wrote down my travels ever since the job ended with TNT, because you're stuck there for what, like 6-7 weeks doing, the first 2 rounds, and then we did the conference finals, which was with Wayne. And right after that, it was back to Phoenix. Then obviously we went to Edmonton, to Florida, back to Edmonton, then to Florida. After that, I was in Phoenix before we went to Vegas. After Vegas, it was back to Phoenix to pack up, to drive to Jackson. Then it was a flight to Calgary for the Stampede, flight back to Jackson, got to hang out there a full week. And then after that, last Monday is when I talked to you. That was right before I took off, ended up making the rest of the drive and headed up to Vancouver quickly. And then I bounced over to Victoria because we had...
So what did you listen to on that drive? Because it's about, I think you said 11, 12 hours.
No, I was wrong. It's actually a 16-hour drive, like just under 16 hours. So actually, I left on Monday, drove till about 10, and then I started nodding off a little bit. And I don't fuck around. The minute I get a little tired now, I pull over. So I pulled over on the side of the highway, slept a little bit, woke back up at 4 a.m, drove another hour, was still tired, pulled over at another rest stop, and I think I woke up at about 8:30 and then just grinded out the rest of the drive off to Vancouver. I'm a sick puppy.
You're a very you have focus, and when you want to do something, there's nothing stopping you. Like if it's a long ride, it's like that's it. Yeah. Biz is doing the long ride.
But I really do enjoy driving. Like after the season, that's my time where I get back behind the wheel. And remember, like I'm in Atlanta for 7 weeks and I'm not driving there. So I just like to hit the open road and get a lot of thinking done. I like to listen to albums. Like I'll listen to albums front to back. Like I was kind of into Bob Seger quite a bit on my way to Jackson this time.
What an absolute amazing artist that guy is.
Oh, just gets me going. And
I gave a sneaky banger Bob Seger one time.
Oh, you did?
One of my sneaky bangers was a Bob Seger song, and I got a lot of love for it, actually. The sad thing about me is that I don't even remember the name of it right now, so I'm going to my liked songs. And I'll tell you right now, Bob Seger has a jam that is named Ramblin' Gamblin' Man. Ramblin' Gamblin' Man. And I got a lot of love for that when I dropped it. It's got a little...
Is that based on R.A.? The Ramblin' Gamblin' Man?
No, that's the stumbling, bumbling... No, we
ass
love R.A.
Ass wedgie picking man. But no, we love R.A. So going back to the drive, then I got to Vancouver, but then quickly the next day... flew over to Victoria because at VGC, the golf course where I'm a member, they have their member guests, but they also do a fun event that's called 18 Aces. So all 18 holes in the course are turned into par 3s. So like sometimes you're chipping obviously from the middle of the fairway, and it's just a fun event. You get banged up with the boys. You have a great lunch beforehand. There's a buffet after. There's a big buffet, and it's just sharing a lot of laughs. And I always love getting over there. I got some property there, and I always think that Oak Bay is where I'll end up when I end up retiring and I'm, settled in, maybe with a family. Not sure on that. That's a lot of some of the thinking that's going on the road
Biz,
too.
You got a lot of time, buddy. You got a lot of time.
I know. Well, I know. But then people bring up the aspect of if there's too much of an age gap, like you won't have anything to really relate with your kid. Like it's TikTok now. Could you imagine what it's going to be in like 5-10 years or even 15 years from that? So I know Elon Musk is not happy with guys like me, that the fact that there's an issue with the population, according to him. But at a certain point, I'm going to have to start busting some nuts inside a lady and start popping out some kids. So that's a little bit. That's a little bit of what the thinking happens on the road, like contemplating, hey, when's it going to be time to kind of hang up the single life? Because you can't, like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't even go out anymore. Can't even fucking listen to the music.
If you look at Bill Belichick right now, I believe he was older than I am currently when his current girlfriend was born. I mean that's pretty sick and twisted. Quickly, this episode is presented by Pink Whitney. It was an amazing weekend filled with a bunch of Pink Whitney. I was down in Scituate, Mass, my hometown, on the water. Beautiful, the Irish Riviera of Boston. It's just an incredible coastal town that my parents live in. We went down there. Pink Whitney was flowing. I saw actually one guy on the beach. He walked by me and just held a nip up. Hey, look, it's Pink Whitney guy. I said, thanks for buying that, bro. Leave me alone. But I loved him. I went and chatted with him, and I want to shout out everyone who buys Pink Whitney. The 1.75 liter ball is the one I always bring up. So thank you so much to New Amsterdam. Thank you to everyone who gets involved. And it's summertime. It's Pink Whitney time. So I was going to say to you that there were rumors around the group chat, maybe a group chat that you're not even on, in which people mentioned on the long ride you were on, you had somebody cut down every episode of Chiclets this year, and it was only the things you said. It was just It was just the audio of you, and that's what you listened to on the long ride. True or false?
Who the fuck said that, Yans?
I just made it up.
You fuck it up. No, hey, no, you didn't. I want to know about this group chat that's true.
I swear on my life, I just made that up right now. But actually, Biz, we have some mea culpas. We have some big-time mea culpas.
Which ones?
Let me get ahead of this.
Whirlwind?
Let me get ahead of this. Whirlwind is just one of your words. You can't figure that one out.
Okay.
I knew that Abraham Lincoln was not killed at a movie theater like the IMAX. Okay?
Yeah, right.
I knew it was a theater. I said movie theater.
He was doing the popcorn trick to his lovely lady beside him and he got caught lacking. And took a bullet.
Do you think old Honest Abe was able to order a drink at these new age theaters? Yeah, bring me a whiskey. So a lot of people, what movie was Abraham Lincoln watching when he was gunned down? No, it was theater. I just added movie. I mean, I will take that one, but I knew it wasn't a movie theater. It's just I said movie. So
movies at that point hadn't even been created, correct?
Yeah, I don't think that they were like ripping off like hugely budgeted filmed movies and then putting them in front of people on a giant screen in 1863. I'm just guessing.
I thought that was your Terminator came out.
No, that was if anyone would have seen a movie from 1863, it would have been RA, and he would have been like bringing up lines from it in the middle of the Cup finals. Like, dude, we don't know what you're talking about.
But meanwhile, it was a silent movie. So you're saying that he was watching live theater?
I believe he was watching, yes, similar to a way that I went and watched Jeremy Strong was his name. Remember I went to the theater? I went to Broadway and I really kind of classed it up for a night with my wife? No, that was the first time. But I had muscle relaxers. I had muscle relaxers because I pulled my neck, and that was the only reason I fell asleep. When I was at this show that I can't even think of the name of that I raved about, that was the theater. So Abraham Lincoln was
it Hamilton?
No, it wasn't Hamilton. It's Grinelli. Please look this up quick. You're our new guy. You're there we go. Okay, the first movie was released in Paris in 1895. Lincoln was assassinated 30 years prior to that. So I wasn't that off. By the way, the fact
I thought Lincoln was president in like 1950 something. I didn't realize it was that long ago that Abraham Lincoln was the president. That's crazy.
I was also told that like more than just Lincoln and Kennedy were assassinated. I guess there was others. Of course, I don't have the names by hand right now. Quick, what presidents were assassinated? Not that this is a great convo, but yes, I said movie theater, and people, it turns out he wasn't watching Basic Instinct at the movie theater. Fair enough, mea culpa. I believe your one that people were really laughing at was just the shock that you had that Lincoln was assassinated. Knowing you well, I was just impressed you knew he was a president, so I'll take that.
He's on the dollar bill, isn't he?
He's also, I believe, on an enormous statue in D.C. that I went in 8th grade, Noble and Greeno School, an amazing school. Oh, hold on. Sorry. The list of attempts is as follows. President assassinated: Lincoln 1865, Garfield 1881, McKinley 1901, Kennedy 1963, President shot but survived, Teddy Roosevelt 1912, Reagan 1981,
Holy shit.
And President Trump.
These guys were. So my understanding is they didn't introduce the Secret Service till like way after all these guys were getting capped.
I'm guessing that there wasn't Secret Service in 1865, but I mean they were behind the ball. Now, in fairness, like I don't know if the Secret Service person in 1865, had they had it, would have been that woman bumbling trying to get her gun back in the holster about 2 weeks ago when Trump was almost gunned down. I don't know if you saw that woman. She was a little clumsy, probably trying to like get him in the car. But we're not getting political on this show, dude.
No.
We're not getting political. And I thought the guys did an amazing job jumping on former President Trump as the person was trying to gun him down. But this leads to this conversation because I thought it was in a movie theater. I thought he was at IMAX with the 3D goggles on. That one's on me.
Okay. So I was wrong again. Secret Service was created in 1865, April 14th. I mean, it's obviously not to the level of them now, and they were obviously dropping the ball considering feels like the next 4 or 5 presidents almost got gat. So,
well, April 14th, is that before or after in 1865 when Honest Abe was killed? What day was he killed?
I think I remember actually Jeff telling me that's when they created it.
So April 14th was the day that Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. July 5th was the day that the Secret Service was created, so almost 3 months after.
So it was one of those things where they're like, hey, guys, I think we got to maybe put together a team that protects the President of the United States. We'll take it. I mean, unfortunately, we lost Honest Abe, but they at least formed the Secret Service after that.
Wow, that we really took a right turn, but I do enjoy reading the things that we fuck up from podcast to podcast, and considering we have the time, we might as well revisit that. Quickly, before I guess we move on, and since we're on the subject, what do you make of Joe Biden stepping down? I mean, Portnoy has been all over it, and he's been very vocal on it. I'm Canadian. I shouldn't have a say in who's the president of the United States of America. And considering I'm not even a Canadian resident, I don't really get say on who's the prime minister. So I'm kind of in limbo here, and I'm really not politically affiliated to anything.
Well, besides your Trudeau tattoo on your left butt cheek, but we'll forget that right now.
Listen, I'm a bit of a lefty pussy. I lean left, but even from Canadian standards, I would probably be like a centrist. So in the States, that would probably be considered left leaning.
Yeah, I think that like most people that are just like level headed, they're pretty much like in the middle and they see things on both sides. Today's day and age, it doesn't seem like that really generates the clicks. And in terms of Portnoy being involved, I think he's seeing the numbers, and we've seen the numbers. And Portnoy talk about numbies. It's all about the numbies. I mean, these political tweets people put out videos. There's 100,000 likes on these things. Like people are just addicted to the political talk. I could give 2 fucks. I think Sleepy Joe probably it was time to maybe go, and that kind of came to a forefront on Sunday. But I don't know enough. I don't know enough to really give a formative opinion because I'm not. I don't want to say I don't care because I really love the United States of America. But when you're watching this stuff on TV, it's just hatred on both sides. And I try to just stick in my lane, do a hockey podcast, be a good parent and husband, and play some golf. I would say ever since COVID, I think the biggest lesson I learned is just like it ain't really gonna change much. So don't let it fucking work you up. And that would be my advice to anybody listening, especially you young kids who are going to eventually grow up and maybe start having to be, you got to stay educated on it. You got to be in the know for what's going on. But at the end of the day, worry about you, take care of yourself and your family, because nothing much is really going to change. Well, how about the old treat people the way you want to be treated?
That's good.
I'll tell you right now, this day and age, social media has changed a lot. And an opinion that I have of that is like nowadays you could meet someone, or say back in the day, you'd meet someone and they'd be you'd be friendly with them and you'd see them once in a while. You're like, oh, that's a good guy. She's a good girl, blah, blah, blah. And that'd be it. Well, nowadays, if you know somebody and you follow them on social media, like the way they post may piss you off, or certain things they say may piss you off. And then your opinion on somebody completely changes. Whereas back in the day, had you not seen any of their posts on Instagram or their political posts on Twitter or blah, 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 you would have never they would have never bothered you. So it's like the social media aspect now changes your opinion on people, when if you just went old school on how you get along with them when you interact in person, it's just completely different now. So that's one thing where, you got people who are posting all the times on Instagram that may drive you nuts, but if you never saw it, you wouldn't care at all. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
You're making a lot of sense. A lot of opinions can be pushed around because of it. But just to go back with, and then this since we're done with this topic, right? We're moving on.
Well, I had one last thing because we brought up Honest Abe, and he does have an enormous, incredible statue in D.C. And if you ever get the chance to go D.C. and see the Vietnam Memorial and see the Lincoln, it's just incredible. We went on a trip there, 8th grade, Noble and Greeno School. I left for 9th grade Thayer Academy. Well, you're on a bus ride down. I'm going to say it's, I don't know, 9-10 hour bus ride from the Boston area down there. And there was a girl I really liked. And on the way back home, I asked her to date me. She said no. And I made the mistake of asking at the beginning of the bus ride. I will never forget. And you know my memory. It's not good. But I have a vivid memory of asking this girl if you want to be my girlfriend. And she's like, no, I kind of like how it is right now. And I sat there listening to Smashing Pumpkins on my Discman crying the whole way home. It felt like 24 hours I was on that goddamn bus.
You didn't have any of the boys to talk to after that, or were they kind of shitting on you for getting rejected?
No, I think that one of them had been with her, and then she still liked him, and I was just the loser, Steven Glansberg, in the back of the bus. I actually walked up to the front of the bus and sat next to a teacher so nobody saw me crying. So being 6'3", weighing 155 pounds, that's what I was in 8th grade, 6'3", 155, and having ears like this and getting denied by a girl that you really thought you had something going with, that's a tough day in the office for your old boy Whit. So I'll remember that one till the day I die. And I actually remember thinking I just love my country. At least I got to see the monuments in D.C. I was listening to Disarm by Smashing Pumpkins.
Abe, I know how you felt. I feel like I got shot in the chest.
Well, there are now rumors Honest Abe was gay, but I feel like these people don't know what the hell they're talking about. This is me reading the internet.
No.
Who knows, dude? Who knows? Not that there's anything wrong with that. But
no.
Yeah, I think we're done with that topic.
What do you mean a rumor? Like, where did you hear that?
I just see all now Twitter's saying Honest Abe was gay. I don't know what to believe. That's the problem. I was talking to my mother yesterday down in Situate. I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't care if I see it on the nightly 7 o'clock Nation News. I don't know if it's true. Who knows? All I know is that I got you, G, R.A., and the rest of the crew, and that's pretty much what we're vibing with, right? That's all I know is true. That right now R.A.'s working on getting better as a human, and Grinelli's just grinding out his life, and you're driving around in what you thought would be 10 hours that turned out to be 16, thinking about being a father and dropping loads in a woman.
So to finish off with my travels, this past weekend I went to a bachelor party, and I was interested to get your thoughts on this. Going in, I was a little skeptical of this many guys, but a 24-man bachelor party.
Oh, dude, that's hell.
But turned out to be incredible. My buddy Liam Maynard's getting married. Been buddies with him ever since. So all the guys are mostly from Vancouver. So we just went up to Whistler, 1-day bachelor party. We went golfing during the day. We had a team event. Everyone had 4 guys in their team and take the 2 low scores on each hole or whatever it was. And then we went out for dinner and then went out to this place called Buffalo Bills and just he's 45. So obviously you can't be doing some long ass destination bachelor party. So I thought it was a wise move to get it done one shot. And we had a blast. This Buffalo Bills place in Whistler, it's a bit of a crazy scene. It's a little younger too, but Whistler's a vibe. And I actually, when I did that Biz Does BC series, Mark McMorris was in it, and randomly 7 years later, and Crankworks was going on. So randomly this past weekend, Crankworks was going on. We're back there. It kind of just the nostalgia and the memories.
What's Crankworks, Biz?
Crankworks is this big bike event where they're doing all the downhill jumping and all this craziness, where they do a bunch of competitions for people who do a bunch of mountain biking activities. So it's a big deal, probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest weekend in Whistler the whole year. And randomly ran into Mark McMorris. So he was there, and I was going to have him come out to the dinner we were going to, but he's getting ready to go call the Olympics. But he's not going to Paris to call the Olympics. They stay in Toronto and they do it out of the studio there. So nonetheless, going to be cool. I'm excited to watch some of the games going on, and happens every 4 years. And it was a great weekend in Whistler. And now, like I said, I'm back in Vancouver and ready to settle down and not be moving around like a crazy bastard.
I've always wanted to go to Whistler at the Olympics in Vancouver. That was where all the mountain aspect of it and the skiing. And we were not able to get up there. I believe about 2 hours, correct, from Vancouver? Roughly?
Yeah, about 90 minutes, 2 hours if there's a little traffic.
So I've always wanted to go up there.
One of the best drives you'll ever do. The Sea to Sky Highway. It's stunning. For about probably 40 minutes of it, the first 40 minutes, it's unreal because you could see the ocean to your left as you're driving up. So it's just a spectacular drive and experience. And this whole little pocket of the world is just amazing in the Pacific Northwest.
It's like when that asshole office manager, Brett, drove us up the Pacific Coast Highway from LA to San Jose. And I think it took us 8 hours, and it could have taken us like 3 if we'd just gone a normal highway, considering it was dark the whole ride. Speaking of bachelor parties, I ran into someone recently who I think he's 42. His wife's the same age. His wife was on a bachelorette party in Vegas. They all live on like the East Coast. So just like, all right, we're 42. You want to go on a big bachelorette party to Vegas, even though like 23-year-old girls go on bachelorettes to Vegas. Whatever, no worries. Then the wedding's in Paris. If you make people travel for both, you're a scumbag. Like, if you want to do a big bachelorette and big travel, but then have the wedding be local. But if you're going Vegas, Paris, like you have every right not to go. That's something where I'll stick to my guns too. That's just too much, especially at the age of 42. How are you swinging them right now?
Bud, so that's one I think I figured out my wedges. So I don't play much golf during the winter. Like, we're obviously in the muck of the hockey season. It's just really not my thing, even to the fact I live in Arizona. But I've probably played like 5 or 6 times in the last like 3-4 weeks. And I'm figuring out my fucking irons. On the back 9 of the last round that I played in Whistler, I was chucking darts, like 90 feet using my 60 wedge. Boom. I'm not putting from 70 yards out anymore. Let's put it that way. Like, I love the Texas wedge. That's how bad my golf game was. But when you figure out your irons, there's nothing better. There's no better feeling than hitting a 60 or a 56 degree loft and like popping it up and then just it dropping on the green, 5 to 8 feet from the hole. And I think I did that 3 or 4 times on the back 9 of that round. Oh, buddy, I was fucking dialed. I often run into people who like, they love the podcast, but then they'll always follow it up. Or sometimes, hey, I love the golf videos. Some people compliment my swing. A lot of people are like, hey, you really need to start drinking again to like get your swing better. But now although I have been drinking every time I've been playing golf, maybe that is the answer. I have promised you, in the next sandbagger we do, you will see a new biz with my irons.
I've always actually loved the Texas wedge. Kevin Hayes is the master. I play golf with Kevin Hayes. He'll be 50 yards out and he'll putt it to like 8 feet. It's crazy. It's an amazing talent. But I knew you had a problem when you wanted to do the Texas wedge and that one time we played together and there was a water hazard in front of me. I said, Biz, you can't skip that thing. No, if I get some topspin on it, I was like, all right, whatever.
You're a fucking idiot.
I've started playing a little bit golf. It's been rough. I've had a couple good rounds and then like couple horrible rounds. But my attitude has been just so much better. Where actually Chris Wagner said, "No, dude, like you need to go back to being furious and being an asshole because when you played bad and you were like that, you ended up playing good. Now you're like Pleasantville Wit as you're shooting 85." But I said, no, for my mental health and then I really like golf now. It isn't. I'm not playing like I used to or as much as I used to, which kind of go hand in hand. But I can't come home to this household and be in a bad mood after golf. Like, that's the one thing my wife said. Like, I don't care if you're going to play golf, but if you come back
it's not
grumpy,
like you were -4 in Sweden and you're contemplating your career. Like, it's like, you listen, you had a bad round, you'll get out next week. Old sandwich ain't going anywhere. Shut the fuck up and change a diaper. Yeah.
Change a diaper, shut your mouth, and then give him the bottle. I mean, that's what it is.
Does your wife run your show more the more kids you have? Like, is there a progression? No doubt. Because every woman is the same in that when you meet them, they're awesome. And my wife's the best. But as you get your third kid and you got a 6 and a crazy ass 3-year-old and then the 2-month-old, like, she's going to tell you certain things that you have to do that she didn't necessarily have to tell you had to do when you met, right? When we met, it was out to dinner or a movie theater with Abe Lincoln every single night and then golf the next day. Well, now it's changed,
right? Like you wake up in the morning, you got to make a waffle for Ryder, you got to give Wyatt cereal, and then he spills the bowl and then screams at you for it, and then you got to give the bottle to Cal, and it's just, yeah, in a sense, the wife runs the show a little bit more. But happy wife, happy life, and as long as I get to play a little golf, it's just, I've had to come to grips, and I think anyone who loves golf that has kids will understand that you have to be able to enjoy the game when you're playing bad. That is so hard to do when you're decent, right? Like,
and also we have a. I'm sure even people who didn't play pro sports, but I have a level of competitiveness where I almost hated. I got to a point where I hated golf because of the frustration. It's supposed to be 4 hours of relaxation. Like, there's nothing relaxing about fucking shanking your ball. There's nothing wrong with you know what I'm saying. Rolling it 20 foot past the hole longer than the original putt was. Like, that's like, to me, where the frustration came from, but I get where you're coming from. Now, I got to ask you a question. Like, you got Ryder, who is extremely level-headed. He's like so giving and calm. And then you got Squanto, who is just an absolute maniac. What are the early signs of Cal? Like, what are are you seeing?
It's too early. It's too early.
Okay.
I'm
praying for another Squanto, but I know that that's going to be a lot on the family, but these stories that you tell me about him running your show are just incredible.
So what I'm more interested in right now in Cal, and this was the big question, was I'm pale, as you guys can tell. Very fair skin, Irish, English, fair skin, pale. Ryder's very similar, much better looking than I am, but I mean, I'm loading on the SPF 50 before the beach, similar to me, very pale. Well, my wife, I like saying she's exotic looking, right? She's very, very tan. She's got all these different nationalities. Like, you know, Brie. Like,
she's like her.
Very
like,
dark.
If she spent out a day in the sun, she'd look like twice as dark, and it just like looks natural. It looks unbelievable. She has a great natural tan. I'm not trying to over compliment here. I don't want to overstep my boundaries, but she's
okay.
Very exotic looking woman.
As long as you don't try to start a family with her someday, we're cool. And then Squanto is Brie. Squanto, he's darker than her, I think. It's crazy. So, like, when I'm around Squanto...
Have you gotten a paternity test?
That's the thing. It's like the UPS driver, no joke, is exotic looking. I'm like, babe, he's dropping off a lot of packages here. And so the question was, when number 3 comes, we got 2 whites and we got 2 darks. What will Cal be? Now, my dad thinks he's going to be a little darker, but I think he's pale. So we've been dealing with trying to figure out basically what color he's going to be. That's the question I'm wondering with Cal right now. A quick Squanto story. I went back from Nantucket the night before Ryder, Cal, and Bree, because Ryder did a fishing camp. It was awesome. These kids had a blast. They had like high school kids doing it, 9 to 12. He caught a bunch of fish every day, Monday through Thursday. It was awesome. Well, we were leaving Wednesday night, and he wanted to go to the last day Thursday. Bree said, no worries, I'll stay with him and Cal. You take Squanto and the dog back. Okay. Well, I know it sounds crazy because a newborn cries, but like Squanto's harder than Cal right now. So I brought Yoshi and Squanto onto the boat, and the boat was a little late. So we're waiting outside the ferry. It's like, I think the boat was supposed to leave at 6:10, and we didn't really board it till 6:30. So you're sitting where you need to enter for a long time. And I had the iPad, but then that wasn't good enough. And he's walking around, he's talking to everyone. I was just kind of like, uh-oh. Well, we get on the boat, and I got my seat, and we were next to, there was a family to the right, and then across from us, another, like 2 girls and their mom sat down. And I was trying to set up his iPad just to like maybe calm him down and have him chill for an hour on the boat ride while I could maybe just like listen to something, Bob Seger maybe, like you on your drive. So I stepped on Yoshi's leash because I was like, all right, there's a bunch of dogs on here, so he ain't going anywhere. And then I'm trying to help Wyatt, but he's flipping out, and I'm kind of holding him. He's like, put me down. And I'm just like ignoring him. Put me down. And I'm ignoring him, trying to fix the iPad. And then he squeezes my cheek like this. He goes, put me down. And I'm like, oh, and I was like kind of mad at him. I'm like, don't you talk to me like that. You sit down right now. And he goes, oh, you're rude to me. And I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Like, I look like a joke next to these people, but they're laughing, which is making him do it more. Well, all of a sudden, everything relaxes, and I put the headphones on him. His hair's in his eyes. He needs a haircut. Bree wants the long hair on him. I got Ryder in the short hair, so it's like a battle between the haircuts. And finally, I'm relaxed. And all of a sudden, this woman walks up around the corner. She's like, is this your dog? Well, in the midst of wrestling Squanto, I had stepped up and I didn't really, and Yoshi ran away. And somehow, I don't know, he wasn't barking. He barks. My dog hates me, by the way. That's another story. We have this beautiful, amazing dog who hates my guts. It's the worst feeling. Like, he doesn't let me pet him. I feel Brie said to me, you got to be nicer to him. Like, months ago, I was like, all right. I started giving him treats. And even last week, she said, I'm with you now. He doesn't like you. So that sucks. But I lost him for a minute. Thank God it was on a boat.
Squanto,
yeah,
like running your show this much. Oh God, it's comedy. I can listen to you talk about it every podcast.
The reason he was
going.
coming home with me was because I've mentioned the jerseys. He wears, I'm not kidding you, 6 to 7 jerseys a day. Every hour, if not less, he's running up to his room and he comes down with a different jersey. It's bizarre.
Does he have a favorite one? Does he have a go-to?
No, well, listen. So these aren't like, I'm not buying my kid like sick jerseys. They're like old little league like jerseys from his cousins, like or Ryder's old Argentina soccer jersey. Like, they're just random. Well, we get to Nantucket and he's like, "Where's my Reds jersey?" And it's an old little league, like the local town had a Cincinnati Reds was one of the teams. It's just a T-shirt that says Reds. And Bree's like, "I didn't pack it." And it's like, I looked at her. "You didn't pack the Reds jersey? You didn't pack the fucking Reds jersey?" And for 2 weeks, this kid asked, "When are we going back to the Yellow House for my Reds jersey?" So I said, "Hey, listen, I'm leaving Wednesday. You want to come back?" "Yeah, I need my Reds jersey." So we went through the disaster on the ferry, almost lost Yoshi, blah, blah, blah. And he falls asleep on the ride home. It's about an hour and 20 minutes from my house. And we get home and he's passed out. I'm like, "Oh, awesome." I pick him up. I carry him upstairs. I put him in bed and he kind of wakes up. "Where's my Reds jersey?" And I was like, no, we'll get it in the morning. He's like, "Where's my Reds jersey? I need my Reds jersey." That's why we came home early. And he's got a lisp. His lisp right now, we're trying to work on that. I said, "Where's my Reds jersey?" And it's like, oh, he's spitting on me. So then it took me 30 minutes to find the goddamn Reds jersey. It's 10:30. And he's standing there with his twiddling his thumbs. So I'm calling Bree, "Where's the Reds jersey?" Fucking disaster. But it was an entertaining trip.
Oh, this guy runs your show. I love it.
Yeah, he does. So the jerseys thing, it's a disaster, but it's the life of being a parent.
Don't get him a Stamco Fanatics jersey. Just don't do that. They can't fucking get it right.
True? Is that the one he had on?
No S.
It said
no S. Come on, Fanatics.
Fanatics
Guy's played over
can't get out of their
1,000
own
games,
way.
2 Stanley Cups. Get his name right. Oh.
They might as well. It would have been better if they just put Stammer on it.
Stammer.
Can't forget the S on Stamkos.
Stammer time.
Hockey news.
Yep.
Hockey news. A pretty, I'd say, impressive hire. And I wonder how Blue Jackets fans feel. But Columbus, they go out and they hire Dean Evison, who coached the Wild for parts of 5 seasons, had a lot of success with them. You've seen his crazy stare on the bench. I think he came in pretty hard on guys, but that's kind of what that team needs right now. What do you take on Evanson getting the Blue Jackets job?
Yeah, changing of the guard. And I think they needed somebody who like you said, I think that he's got that mix between player coach, but also a hard ass and very structured. Like, it's not going to be a country club there, especially to start. They need to reestablish that culture. I think going back to last year at the start of the year and that whole fiasco, obviously there was probably a lot of frustration from ownership and the fact that decision was made. It was reinforced. They make the hire. They got to buy him out, and then they move on. And it's Vincent, right? Pascal Vincent, the coach who took over. And I just think he was put into a horrible situation, especially that short term and having to go from being an assistant coach to a head coach. And, they I don't think they have the personnel right now. I think they're heading in the right direction. I think they have some decent pieces. But ultimately he was put in a very horrible situation. But ever since, they let go of the GM, they hired Don Waddell. Now they got Dean Evison. They have some good young prospects. It seems like they're going to move on from Laine. So it just really seems like it's a complete car wash of what's been going on there in the past. And now they're looking to the future. And I love the hire. As I mentioned, I think they need that aspect of player coach, but yet a guy who is hard and who's going to come in there and clean up a lot of the mistakes that have been made. As well as he's been around a long time. I mean, this is a guy who played over 800 games as a player in the NHL. He's coached a very long time. But like I said, it seems like that structure is going to be what they need. How do you feel about it?
I think that the number one thing the Blue Jackets need right now is stability. and you're bringing in a guy who's had success in Minnesota, who demands, I'm not going to say excellence, but professionalism. And in a year that was a disaster from the get-go with Fantilli and possibly Brindley and all these young, talented guys that they have there, and then like Werenski, and they got some vets, but it's like we need some stability. And I think that when you go into training camp this year, if you are on the Blue Jackets, there's going to be a clear message of what is expected, where last year it was such a gong show that they had to deal with all this nonsense. And like you said, Pascal Vincent, that's just a bad bounce for him. Like, you plan all summer to be an assistant and what you're going to do and how you're going to work with Babcock, and boom, it's your job. You haven't really prepared to have that role, and everything changes so quick that the whole year was a gong show. And now you get the hire in July. He's able to put a game plan in place. And one thing I do love, if I was a fan of the Blue Jackets, is like the Evansson reactions on the bench when Minnesota was winning some of those games that like he was a part of. Like, I love that passion. And I think that's probably what they need there, is like the excitement and the demanding of certain things and making sure that if you don't do this, you're not going to play. Whereas, like, I think there's probably some rumblings of a little bit of a country club there. And partly that's
I was
why
just going to use the word country club. That would have been the word I use. And when did they have their most success with a coach like John Tortorella? Now, that could be a very intense situation that can wear on players over time. But ultimately, they needed a guy with a similar personality, maybe not as intense, to come in and make it way less of a country club vibe. And another thing too, like I know Johnny Ham and Cheese maybe over the past couple of years hasn't exactly been like, you know, maybe the Johnny Gaudreau we saw in Calgary. They clearly had better teams, but he's also a guy who's used to playing for a hard-nosed style coach, and a guy who had success under one in Daryl Sutter. That could have been what eventually pushed him away. But Dean Evansson isn't Daryl Sutter. There's a drastic difference in between John Tortorella, Daryl Sutter, and Dean Evansson. So I've only ever heard good things. Remember, we went there. I think we went and stopped by practice, and we got to chat with him a little bit. And that was right before the outdoor game, before they played St. Louis. And really feels like what him and Billy G had going on was very positive. Seemed like it was an open door policy where players can come in and communicate what they're seeing. But ultimately, they need to go in with the work boots on this training camp, because if they aren't all going on all cylinders all the time, they're still not in a place to make playoffs as we speak. So a lot of work to be done, but a lot of respect now in that organization with Don Waddell and him coming over.
Also, like when he was in Minnesota, I mean, I don't think you went into the season thinking, oh, this is a playoff team for sure. And he ends up being fired, but you saw like Billy Guerin, he felt like he had to do it, but I think it was pretty hard and emotional for him to fire Dean Evansson.
Yes.
If you remember, Evansson went in the locker room and went into his office, and it was an emotional meeting in terms of like, I feel like I have to do this. I don't want to do this, but I think this is what we need. But Evansson got a lot more out of those Wild teams than a lot of people expected. Teams that were going through cap hell and didn't necessarily have a roster where you expected that much, that went on some runs in the regular season of like, wow, this is a pretty legit team. So I think Evansson will be able to work with an up-and-coming team. And what's cool for him is you look at it like, all right, we're not there yet, but I truly believe with this talented roster and the prospects coming and what I believe I could do as a coach, we're going to be there much sooner than people think. My last thing on it is, I've said this before, I want the Columbus Blue Jackets to be good, and the main reason is that fan base. That
awesome
friggin' fan base is packing that building game 82 when they're horrible, going bananas with the fucking Abraham Lincoln cannon going off. and those fans have seen one series win, and they need to see more success. They deserve it for how much they show up, and I can't wait to see how it plays out in Columbus. I also can't wait to see Fantilli's sophomore year. He had that injury at the end of this season, and I think he's going to pop off.
Yes, agreed on all fronts, and that fan base deserves it. We went there. I don't know if it was at the beginning of, no, it was 2 years ago, obviously. I don't think we would have been invited last year, but me and G went, and that's when G declared it top 5 cities in the United States of America.
I think he said top 3. I think he said top 3.
Well,
yeah.
With the Abraham Lincoln cannon, that could be a fact now. We got to go on to the next thing. We thought this was the next biggest thing, not Quinton Byfield, which we'll get to after this, but Joe Pavelski is hanging him up. 18 seasons in the NHL, over 1,000 points with over 1,300 games, 201 playoff games. I think probably top 10 all-time good guys where people would be really disappointed he didn't win a Stanley Cup. Like if you could list off probably a top 10 list of guys who never got to win a cup who deserve it and who guys want to win one, like Joe Thornton's on that list. Who else would you put on that list?
Aginla.
Jerome Aginla. Pavelski.
Lundqvist.
Henrik Lundqvist. He's probably a top 10 guy. And I think that
Whitney.
Ryan Whitney, one of the best backhand one-timers the world has ever seen. And as far as American Hockey Hall of Fame, I think it's a no-brainer. He's the 6th highest scoring American-born player to ever play in the National Hockey League. And I think that if you asked his teammates and coaches for all-around character and qualities as a teammate, they would say he's a Hall of Famer. But I just don't think. I think without the cup, like I don't know if he gets into the Hockey Hall of Fame. What do you think?
I think he ends up getting in.
Wow. Okay. Good. Okay.
I don't think it'll be like Shea Weber first ballot. This past season, getting the announcement that he'll be going in February or whatever they do that. But I think of Joe Pavelski, and I kind of do think of a Hockey Hall of Famer. And my number one stat for him is the most goals in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs by an American-born player. So it's like of all the times, and I know he didn't get the Stanley Cup, but he played his best hockey when the games meant the most. And he went to a cup final and he had a chance and he was just so consistent. And he was able to do it by not only being a 7th round pick, but by being slow. Like, we're not even saying like, oh, he wasn't super fast. He was slow. And he just was so goddamn good around the net. So much better defensively than people realize. And every teammate loved the guy. So I was watching him play in that American Century Classic that they play out in Lake Tahoe. He finished 2nd place to Marty Fish, former tennis player who I believe is like a legit like +4 handicaps, like played.
Oh wow, that cool
events.
story of that
Yes.
American tennis player. I think I watched a documentary on him or something.
Yeah, Netflix.
Okay, that's what I watched. Yes.
Yeah. So he's unbelievable, and Pavelski and him just went toe to toe. And I was looking at Pavelski out there because I was watching the broadcast. I mean, he took his hat off. The guy's hairline hasn't moved a goddamn centimeter. He's a stallion. He's a fucking well-dressed dude. All he did was show up, and I think he's got a role.
He's packing heat.
I think he's a great hunter. He's a great golfer. He's dusting people in ping pong. Joe Pavelski is like, that is what you show a smaller kid, maybe a late drafted or an undrafted player who believes he could play in the NHL. Like, look at Joe Pavelski and look how every season he came to play, and every year, you know where he scored goals from? In the crease. Because he went in there and he took a beating and he had unbelievable hand-eye and he tipped every puck in and then he competed. So I just hope that guy enjoys his retirement. I have a crazy theory that he probably will, considering everything he does to extremely high levels. I think his retirement will be no different. There are certain people that play the game that retire and you just picture being involved in a front office.
Yeah.
I feel like
I saw Buchagross's tweet where, he was like, it's a shame he didn't win a Stanley Cup, but he could see him winning one in management or, whatever he wants to do in his post-career involved with a team. I feel like he's like I said about like Derek Stepan, like I'm sure Sidney Crosby, Steve Yzerman, there's certain guys that are kind of just wired to be. I think Joe Thornton's kind of slowly getting into it a little bit, like maybe not too hardcore involved, but dipping the toe in. But eventually they find their way to the top because they're just so reputable and they're such good guys to have around.
So people have said, you guys need Pavelski and a sandbagger, 100%. But like, let's make this clear right now.
He's been dodging us.
I'm getting 6 shots. 6. I'm like a 3 handicap. Like, I was a 0 for a while, not anymore. I'm a 3. I think my index is right around there. He at least I'm getting 5. Like, he's a true +1 or 2 handicap. So like, people are coming at me like, have him for a sandbag. You're scared he'll dust you. Yeah, he's way better than me. So I'm taking shots. You're getting like 20 if we play him. Put it that way. Because we've seen Ray Whitney and we've seen some great golfers. I think he's above them all.
You think he's the best hockey player golfer to exist on the planet?
So I've been told that the best one is Greg McKegg. Do you remember the name Greg McKegg?
No.
I hope that's his first name. He played for like Pittsburgh and.
So while you look this up, actually, we got to tease our next sandbagger. It's coming out August 22nd. It's actually going to be against Jordan Smaltz and Heat Daddy. So they joined us at the win. Now, boys, like I know some people were messaging us, hey, I think the whole crew needs to take a break. This was kind of like the end of the craziness where everybody was buckled. It was 115 degrees on the course. I never thought we'd play in a hotter sandbagger than the one we did in Nashville. Well, this was even worse. It was we started as early as we could to keep the temperature down, but that desert sun got us in no time. And you guys will have to watch and see how it all went. I mean, I urinated myself on the golf course. I'm not going to say how we got there. I'm not going to say how it all went down, but I ended up pissing my pants. I don't think I'm ever going to be invited back to a Wynn property in my life after this video comes out. But blame the pink Whitney nips and the birdie juice, because I think we had about 4 or 5 on the first 6 holes.
We teed off at 6:30, and by 7:15, everyone was crippled. And Heat Daddy and Schmaltz, like, all I could say is just watch. Like, I don't even really know how to describe those guys. Beautiful human beings, crazy minds. Some of the things that were coming out of their mouths, like, I know Heat Daddy mentioned Kyle Rittenhouse. Like, it's all kind of
I don't know how we got there. I don't think we ever know how he gets where he goes to, but
I know we were gonna do 9 holes, and then we like kept going, and then by 13, I'm like, I never wanted to get off a golf course more in my life, but it was incredible. The ending, I'm sure, will surprise some people, but check that out, August 22nd. Other NHL news you already quickly mentioned is Quinton
and just
Byfield.
to go back quickly to Pavelski, I think
Yes.
that there's always a time and the right time to do it. It's sad because I felt like the decline, in a sense of like how slow he ended up looking on the ice, happened so drastic, where the regular season, like, it was never really that noticeable, but as playoffs wore on and he struggled to score goals, it just, in that Edmonton series especially, it just seemed like he dropped like another pace. And it's just like, hey man, the age catches up to you at some point, but I think he ducked out at the right time, and just an incredible career, because he shouldn't be remembered for that. He should be remembered for all the fucking goals he scored, all the games he played, and all the clutches he had throughout his 18-year season. So best of luck of Joe Pavelski, and quit dodging us in the sandbaggers. We'll see you soon.
He also, like, if you ever want to kind of show somebody the difference between playoffs and regular season, I think Pavelski had 29 goals this year. And then the playoffs came, and it was just, who knows if he was injured, but it was like, oh my God, like, I think that the level's up this much, and my foot speed isn't there. So he knew when it was time to go. Unfortunate.
I mean, guys, like, think about the end of my career. Like, I couldn't even play a game without tearing an ACL. So he actually made out pretty good to think about. You know what I'm saying? The decline happens fast. It happens faster for some than others. But I think that he made out pretty good having that regular season, then just unfortunately fizzled out in playoffs. Do you want to move on to probably the biggest signing since we last talked?
Yes. Quickly, Greg McKegg played 233 NHL games with Toronto, Florida, Tampa, Pittsburgh, Carolina, New York Rangers, Bruins, and back to the Rangers, along with a lot of AHL time. 21 goals in 233 NHL games. Apparently, he is the GOAT hockey player golfer. I've been told by several people he's a legitimate, unbelievable player. So maybe we could like put together a Pavelski McKegg match. And we we should announce the best golfers playing each other.
Okay, and then for as far as officials, isn't Rank? I forget the first name. Is it Kyle Rank?
Garrett
or Garrett Rank? So
Garrett
is he legit somewhat professional? Would he be better than that guy you just mentioned?
I think Garrett Rank would like dummy both of them. Garrett Rank's like one of the top mid amateurs in the world, and that's for people over the age of 25 are considered mid amateurs, and he is. Like, he competes in the USAM, the US Mid-Am, all the biggest, best tournaments around for those people Garrett Rank's a part of. So, yeah, he in the hockey world is the best golfer. So we'll go with the ref for that one. Back to the NHL, yes. The LA Kings, who had a really tough July 1st, kind of a tough offseason, according to all their fans and what I'm seeing online, made a nice move, and that's signing Quinton Byfield to a 5-year extension at, I think it's 6.25 a season. And I love the move for both, but I almost love it more for Byfield. He popped off this season, and then you see like he goes 80 games, 20 goals, 35 assists, 55 points. His career high had been 22 points the year prior. So you see this huge climb, and then you see him and his agent say, well, we're going to sign this deal, and you're going to be UFA at 27. And then we're going to sign another monster contract because the cap in 5 years could be $107 million for all we know.
And this is Yeah, this is the proper process too, to where he doesn't have to all of a sudden being paid like he is the guy and be the guy. This is what I'm talking about when I see some of these guys just get the 8x8 like nothing. I will compliment the LA Kings. They've made some tough moves as far as trades in the last year and a half. I really didn't like the one with Winnipeg. Obviously, the Dubois signing is kind of a scarlet letter on Blake. So in some cases, early on when Blake took over, made some questionable moves. I feel like he reeled it back in. Last offseason wasn't the best offseason for him, but this is a huge deal. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of how they handled the Kempe situation. I want to say Kempe got a 4-year deal at $22 million. So they don't have to all of a sudden have this burden of being the guy. They essentially get this bridge deal. I think Kempe was a little bit older when he got that, and he'd had to spend some time in the American League, but nonetheless had the style of production in which we're seeing from Byfield popping off the way that he did. And you can't make more than Kopitar. Kopitar is making $7 million the next 2 years. So and like you said, 5 years from now, when he's 27 years old, he will be that guy. Kopitar more than likely won't be there anymore. They're going to have Doughty off the books, and then it's going to be Quinton Byfield's team if all else goes according to plan. So a great deal for Rob Blake. It kind of takes away a little bit of that heat that he's probably feeling from that Dubois signing and then buyout, as well as the getting rid of a few key players. Like, who'd they get rid of? Velarde and Iafallo? And did they part ways with someone else in that deal?
No, I think you might be maybe imagining the drafting of Faber, right? And then trading him. But they have Brant Clark coming up, who apparently is like crazy talented. Oh, actually, I ran into one of your old coaches in Ontario, who still coaches there at the airport in Vegas. Great guy. Can't think of his name
Chris
right now.
Height? Chris Height?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good dude.
Went on to
Good dude.
awesome guy. Awesome
yeah, he was
guy.
telling me, and I was actually asking him about Brant Clark. He's saying like, "Oh, this kid is so skilled," and I think right now it's just working on like more consistency, and like he was speaking glowingly of him though. So they got this young D-man stud coming up. So it's probably better. It's never as bad as you think, never as good as you think. So I think the LA Kings fans are real down in the dumps. Probably not as bad as you think. I did read that if Byfield had signed like an 8-year deal, the number would have been astronomically high. So maybe Blake's looking at it like, all right, well, I'd rather sign this, see what you can do, as opposed to what you're saying, and give out an 8-year deal
Yeah, I think they also, from like the Kempe situation into this situation, they got to buy time to get maybe some of the heavy contracts off the books. Now, outside of, I think it's Doughty who's making $11 million for 3 more years. Like, I have no problem with him making that money. I know that from a current day production standpoint, he's probably an $8 million, $9 million defenseman. But when you bring 2 cups to the team, you should get paid whatever the fuck you want. But like I said, Kopitar making $7 million, then you have Deneau that's under $7 million, I want to say too, and then Quinton Byfield at that number, and then as well as Adrian Kempe going in next year at 5.5. Like, the money up front is spread out pretty evenly, and they don't have any crazy bad contracts. So in my opinion, it's definitely a good look for the next few years. And then the question mark, I think, with Byfield is he played junior his first 2 years as a centerman. I think it's helped him out a lot moving to the wing and playing with Kopitar, so he doesn't have to play against all these juggernaut centermen in the Western Conference night in, night out, until he does, get his feet under him from an NHL perspective and learn how to produce and then play defensively enough to when Kopitar's gone in 2-3 years or 3 years, excuse me, if he can maybe then step into that center role. I think he's yet to maybe prove if he can be that first line center, but I think that's probably their expectation and where they hope he is by the time this deal ends.
I even think this year, like, because last year you were looking at like, all right, we got Kopitar, we got Dubois, and then we got Deneau as the 3 centers, and Dubois is gone, and maybe they're like, all right, no, our second line center is going to be Quinton Byfield. We think he's ready now. Center ice to play as a 19-year-old in the NHL is like, so good luck, dude. Good luck. So you'll see certain players.
He did deal with an ankle or foot break in, I don't know if it was last year's training camp or maybe the year before. So maybe that's why the production was down. And there's a lot of growth here still left to happen. So a great contract for the LA Kings. And as I said, it relieves a little pressure for Rob Blake after making a few tough ones early last offseason. last thing before we send it over to Sean Pronger, we had Chris Pronger's brother on, and he had a great career himself. And he was a bit of a suitcase. He bounced around to a lot of teams, and we discussed all of them. And, but it seems like just a guy who was grateful to be playing pro hockey and really embraced wherever he ended up and had fun while doing it. So I'm really looking forward to you guys listening to that interview. A lot of laughs, and he's a funny character. And he did play for the Canucks, so that's the last team we'll talk about before heading into that one. Couple signings. Sheloff, I think might have happened before last podcast. Great contract they got for him, $850 for 2 years. And then a guy you talked about a few podcasts ago in Sprong. Sprong's a 20-goal guy. Where was he going to end up? They signed him for under $1 million. So as far as Vancouver this offseason, I know they lost Lindholm but they locked up Sherwood. They got DeBrusque. They got Joshua back on a very fair number. They got Heinen, and then now Sprong, a 20-goal scorer. So as far as their offensive depth heading into next season, they might have a deeper forward group. The question mark is obviously going to be the back end, Quinn Hughes being their only puck-moving defenseman. They lose Zadorov, so don't really know what's going to happen there, but they got their goaltending and their forwards locked and loaded.
I think their forward group's phenomenal. I think Jake DeBrusque is going to do really well there. Like I mentioned before when we talked about Vancouver, what Elias Pettersson are you going to get? That is the question. If he is the guy before he signed the contract this season, like they're going to be unbelievable. If he's the guy we saw in the playoffs, it's going to be maybe a struggle. You need your superstars to be superstars, especially the ones that are paid like that. So I just couldn't believe the Sheloff deal. I saw it and I was like, how'd they get him at $850? But like, I know you said he had no leverage, but he was phenomenal in the playoffs.
It doesn't fucking matter. Demko's their guy who's been able to do it year over year. You know exactly what you're getting from him. Obviously, the health component is an issue. I think I mentioned I talked to Boucher, Brian Boucher, who works with TNT, and I said, I feel like for a big guy, this guy moves insane. He goes, Biz, if McDavid was a goalie, this would be McDavid. The way that he's so big and the way he's able to go lateral and his positioning and his skating. The problem is, though, with all that movement sometimes does come injury, and he's been injured the last couple of years a little bit. So Sheloff's, yeah, he had a good playoff, but where it's hey, buddy, sign this deal or fucking stay at home.
Yeah.
Like, what else are you
You're
gonna
not
do?
even our starter.
You're not our starter. And have a couple good more years as a backup, then you're going to have all the leverage in the world, and maybe a team, if he's able to play that 25, 30 games to the way he played in playoffs, some team is going to make him an A1, AB and give him a 4-year deal at $4 million, the same that or $5 million, the same that Allmark got when he ended up going over to Buffalo when they fucking traded him off. What a stupid move, because it was Buffalo who signed him to that deal, right? I want to say it was Buffalo who gave him 4 years at $5 million a year, but regardless, is if you're a goalie and you have that short sample size, I don't think you should be making big money, especially when you're restricted and you have no arbitration and no rights. And how many times have we seen a goalie go on a fun run for a couple months and then all of a sudden it's like, oh great, we got this guy for 5 more years making $5 million. Yeah, you don't want to pay these guys.
Yeah, the goalie game now is wild. Like the inconsistency year to year from a lot of guys. It's like what happened last year and what is going on now. There's always like, this isn't the same guy we saw last year, good or bad. So that's always interesting. The one worry for Vancouver, I would say, is like you got Hughes and Hronek up top, awesome. But then like for a team with fast-paced forwards that can score, Carson Soucy, Tyler Myers, Forbert, and Vinny Desharnais, puck movement out of the zone could become an issue. I know Quinn Hughes can play 28 minutes a game, but I'm interested to see like how they're able to break out of their own zone. If that's able to be like crisp through the middle, tape to tape, or more chipping it off the glass to a forward unit who isn't necessarily going to go in and like get it back. They want to enter the zone with pace and with possession of the puck. So,
well, if they don't want to learn how to forecheck, they're not going to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, you've seen the last few teams who have. I mean, you have to be good in all areas. I'd say as far as Florida's concerned, that was one of their strongest strengths. So it's either you learn now with all those good players who can move up front, fucking go hound that puck down, baby. You gotta hound it.
You gotta hound it. Well, that leads right into Sean Pronger, who I believe was a member of the Vancouver Canucks, was he not?
Yeah, I mean he had a cup of coffee a lot of places. I'll pull up his hockey DB.
Anaheim, Pittsburgh, Rangers, Kings, Bruins, Blue Jackets, and Vancouver was his last NHL team. He played 3 games in 2003, 2004, and then went over to the DEL in Germany. A great storyteller. We actually did this, I think it was November of 2023, so we've had this one for a while, and we've really kind of thought it would be good to wait till the summer because people would enjoy it. Chris
it's
Pronger's
evergreen.
brother. And he brought us in some of their whiskey, I believe, that day.
They got a booze brand they started with. So it's a great interview. We sat down. You guys had some of it because I was off the piss. And like you said, a great storyteller, and I'm looking forward to you guys hearing about his journey.
What up, guys? Before we continue, it's Whit, and I need to talk to you about BetterHelp. Spittin Chiclets is sponsored by BetterHelp. Comparison is the thief of joy, and it's easy to envy other people's lives. It might look like they have it all together on their Instagram, but in reality, they probably don't. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. And I've mentioned many times before that I've been involved in therapy, and I've done a lot of it in my life, specifically after I retired, as I was starting a family. Just being able to talk to someone, get your thoughts out in the open to somebody who you know and trust and are able to listen to and appreciate with their feedback. It's so helpful. I think that there's sometimes a stigma around it that maybe people think you're weak if you need it. That is BS. That is nonsense. It can do wonders for anyone out there who just needs somebody to talk to and needs to get things off their chest and realizes that right now I'm going through a little bit of a struggle and I know I can get out of this, and I think help will really do me a lot of good, and that is BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Chiclets today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Chiclets. And I promise you will feel better if you're able to talk to someone. So do that with BetterHelp.com/Chiclets.
All right, it's time for our next guest. This center was taken by Vancouver in the 3rd round of the 1991 draft. After 4 years at Bowling Green, he started his 11-year pro career, 8 of which were in the NHL with Anaheim, Pittsburgh, the Rangers, Kings, Bruins, Blue Jackets, and Vancouver. He's also an accomplished author and now a purveyor of fine Canadian whiskey. It's a pleasure to welcome to the Spittin Chiclets podcast, Sean Pronger. How's Southern Cal treat you, my friend?
Awesome. I'm glad you got my bio I sent over.
I know how to rub him up.
Hey, I love the back of the book. He's got some quotes from guys: Brian Burke, Craig McTavish, Chris Pronger's brother, Rick Nash. Sean was one of the first guys to invite me into his home for dinner when I was a rookie, just trying to get adjusted to the NHL life. Funny, I never saw him much after that first year. He's not dead, is he?
He was
hell of a blur.
He was such a child. He's 18. Like, you're just so young. Like, you forget like what it's like.
I know.
And he comes over, just like, "Hey, can I get?" I'm like, "Dude, you want something to eat?" He's like, "Yeah." So we sat together on the plane. Like, I don't know why they let me in near someone that talented. But yeah, he was a great guy. Just young. I mean, it was like one of the last dinners or that year when he was a rookie. So I think we were in Washington. So the group of us go out, and it was a great teaching moment for Nasher. We went to dinner, beers, wine, drinks, appies, like just the whole thing. We were out of the playoffs, obviously. It might have been January. And so the bill comes, it's obviously monstrous. And so we just chop it up 4 ways. And Nasher's like, "I had a Coke and spaghetti bolagnese." I go,
"Perfect.
You got to learn, buddy. You got to learn."
Thanks for the beef tartare or the filet.
This isn't the wives' dinner, girls.
Yeah.
I had a salad, so it's $17.99 for me.
Actually, you made out pretty good. I thought you said you were going to make him pay for it.
No, I should have. Had I known, you never know when it's going to be your last year, or the guy's going to be a superstar. Although he was obvious he was going to be a superstar.
Yeah,
tell right away.
Oh,
just a raw talent.
I mean, just big, and like he hadn't even filled out yet, but just so good and so good around the net. His hands were unbelievable. Yeah,
I don't know how much you watch now, but like this Leo Carlson, I mean, he's kind of a big center too, like kind of very similar. I don't know how much you watch.
It is pretty awesome what's going on in Anaheim. Like,
I know.
Thought it was going to happen in a couple of years, but I mean, they having lived here for a while, they do have really good starts, and then I think the season catches up to them, but it'd be great if they can ride this for as long as possible because they have some talent.
Did you go to many games?
I do. I go to a handful, usually in the first half, then I go to a lot in the second half.
So the Ducks were your first NHL team?
Yes. Yeah, they were. God, it seemed like 100 years ago. But yeah, I got called up. I was playing in Baltimore. Walt Kyle, if you know that name, was the head coach of the Baltimore Bandits. And I literally just came out of the East Coast the year before. And it was like, I was a third line center in the American League, not the guy you think's getting called up. I was playing like good hockey, but the pucks were not flying in the net, so it's like you would never expect the call. And then he calls, and it was almost out of like major league when it's like, Tom Berenger's got a like sombrero laying across the bed. I'm like on the couch, I'm like hungover. He's like, Sean, I go, yeah, it's Walt. Yeah, Walt. You're getting called up. I go, fuck you. He goes, no, you're going. I go, dude, seriously, what time's practice tomorrow? He's like, no, Sean, the Ducks are calling you up. So-and-so got hurt. I'm like, are you fucking serious? I go, how many games? He's like, I don't know, 1. Go fucking play. So I go to the airport and I didn't know what to do. Like I packed, I didn't even have a suit. I had like a sport coat, a green one. I don't know why. A green fucking blazer, which just makes no sense.
Tough plus minus the year before.
Yeah. I bought it myself. And I go to the airport and I drop off my car in like short-term parking, like right beside the terminal. And I'm like, fuck it. Got on the plane and took off and realized like that thing might not be there when I get back. Had my roommate pick it up and showed up and played one game. Didn't even look at the schedule. Played Washington. Survived that game, but like no one tells you anything, or I didn't think to ask. So it's like the game's over and we're, tomorrow we got practice, then we're flying out to Detroit. And I'm like,
am I going?
Am I going? And no one says shit. So I'm just going to keep showing up. So I just showed up. I didn't even look at the schedule. So we played Wednesday was against Washington, Thursday travel day, Friday Detroit, Saturday Toronto, Maple Leaf Gardens.
Oh man.
Hockey night in Canada. I'm like, I got to get to that fucking game. I got to figure out a way. So I just show up, get on the bus or get on the plane, get to Detroit, survive Detroit. I can't say I played well, but well enough that they couldn't get somebody there in time for the Toronto game. So then, played hockey night in Canada, and it was awesome. Like, it was a thrill. I mean, you guys have played in Maple Leaf.
Did your family get to come down?
They did not. They watched it, but they couldn't get there because it was like a lot of my times in the NHL were very last minute. So them booking travel would have been tough.
And you're from Dryden, correct?
Dryden, Ontario. Yep.
Which is not far from Thunder Bay.
It's 4 hours from Thunder Bay.
So that's where you had to play your minor?
I played junior hockey in Thunder Bay.
Okay.
Thunder Bay Flyers, which they moved the team, but. Yeah, there's a lot of good players that came through there.
So, I mean, what was it like growing up in Dryden? And obviously that's not very close to Toronto, so no wonder they couldn't make it.
Yeah, Dryden, a special place in my heart. Not a lot going on in Dryden.
Is it middle of nowhere?
Literally. Like, it's the definition of middle of nowhere. Population 7,000. It's like a mill town. So there's not a lot to do. But, when you grow up there, you don't know that. So we had a blast. So me and Chris and our, kind of the core group of friends, we played road hockey, we played every day in front of our house and then as we got older, so we'd play all the time, then we'd go to the outdoor rink on the weekend, and then we'd come back, watch hockey night in Canada, then go dick around somewhere. But during the week we'd play at night in front of the house. And I mean, if anybody stuck to, luckily it's 40 below, so no one was outside, but the language that these young kids that it was a lot. And so then as we got older, we'd, because back we're watching the 70s and 80s hockey. I mean, it's just fights and physical, right? So we're working on our fighting on the street, and these are buddies, and so we would beat the shit out of each other. So we got the big skidoo mitts on, with the padding on them, right? So we play, like, the games got a lot shorter and the fighting got a lot longer as we got older, and so we would like square off with each other. These are we're best friends, and so some guys got braces. Some guys don't. Some guys are taller. Some guys aren't. So we're working on the string them out and then just
and everyone's chucking them.
And it is just a melee. And so there's blood everywhere because the guy with braces, Chris Hancock, if you're watching, is just blood's everywhere. So then I remember going in and my mom, it's dark outside. So I go into the light in the house and my mom comes around the corner. She's like, "Oh my God, Sean." I go, "What?" She's like, "Blood." I go, "Mom, it's not mine." It's like fucking like, but things are caked in blood. It was, oh my God, we were lunatics.
And how many years younger is your brother? And would you kind of give him the beat down? And I would assume that's how he ended up as tough as he did.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, I did.
I'm sure at a certain point he kind of reversed it on you, though.
Funny, we never fought after. As soon as I thought maybe a chance I might not win, we never fought after that.
Hey, bro, what's
What are we fighting about? No, but he took a beating. Like I can't say I beat him into greatness, but we fought a lot, and I came out on the upper hand for pretty much all of them until I figured I couldn't, and then we didn't fight anymore.
Well, speaking of your brother, we didn't really talk about it when we came in. Now, you have a new whiskey that you launched with Chris, and who else? Any other? Any other guys?
Niagara Falls Craft Distillery. They make it, and they're our partner.
Well, from one booze brand to another, congratulations.
Thank you. You guys are the model. We're riding your coattails and following along on the path. It's been
JRNY for Journey?
The Journey, yeah.
That's awesome. That's a good name.
Yeah.
I like that. Canadian whiskey.
Yeah, no, the first thing, the whiskey's awesome. Chris and I were involved in the whole tasting, I want to say development of it, but we just fucking tried it, and said, can you do this and that? Yeah, it needs more. I don't know. It's too harsh. Our vocabulary wasn't there, but and a lot of people call us the Ben and Jerry's of whiskey now.
Really?
No, I coined that.
Keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
Good sales pitch.
I know. But first of all, the whiskey is awesome. Niagara Falls did it. We were involved in the tasting of it, but it was I don't know if you guys ever watched Days of Thunder, Cole Trickle trying to describe what to do with the car. I don't know, I just drive it. I don't know, I just drink it. This is what I like. So
great analogy.
They tweaked it, and it's awesome. And then it's been kind of fun to have something that you're proud of. And Chris is like a menace he brings bottles everywhere. I mean, he is a menace.
So growing up in Dryden, I would imagine the dream is to go play in the NHL, and that's how you were kind of gonna get out of town, right, and get to move on and experience the world. So
pretty much,
you guys were off chasing your dream, and obviously, you guys both were able to accomplish it.
Yeah, one reached a bit higher than the other, but yeah.
Probably you're a big reason for that. I'm sure.
I mean, maybe, what not to do. I'm going to go the other way. But no, for me, Chris, his brain works a bit different, but for me, the NHL always seems so that's what they do, and the big city kids do. I just wanted to play because I love playing. I just love playing, so we'd play, and I thought maybe, I could play junior hockey, go to Thunder Bay and play junior, or, I had a coach in midget that played for North Dakota. Maybe I can get a scholarship and play college. That was the extent of my, how high I thought I could reach. But then as you get there, you play junior, I'm like, oh, that guy's got a scholarship. That guy's going to be a first round pick. I'm like, they're not that much better. And so I want to get a scholarship. So, all right. And then I get one. And then it's didn't even think about getting drafted. And then, I'm playing against guys that have already been drafted.
Holding your own.
And I'm like, fuck, these guys aren't much better. I can do this. So then I get drafted. And then it's okay, well, maybe I can play in the minor. I was thinking if I made $75,000 in the minors, fuck, that'd be great. So then you get to then you get drafted, you turn pro, and it's this guy's playing at this level. I mean, I'm right there. So then you just keep, it was just bit by bit. Chris might tell a different story because he was so good, so young that it would have been.
Yeah. So was he kind of like a prodigy, in a way that right away you were like, wow. So it was maybe not right away, but 10 years old and you're 12, holy shit.
He played up, and I mean, he would always play with my buddies, so he's always playing 2 years up, even when we were just dicking around on the outdoor rink. But he was so good, so young. But I think the real catalyst for him was I left to go play in Thunder Bay Junior, which would have been, I was 16, my senior year of high school, basically. And so I left. When I left, he was probably 4 inches shorter than me. I came back 2 months. So I left in August. I came back in October, back to Dryden for Canadian Thanksgiving. And he came to watch the game, and then we were going to go back. He was 4 inches taller than me. He grew 8 inches in 2 months.
No way.
And never had an awkward moment. I think he had growing pains where they ice him down and shit, but I wasn't there. But and then I went and watched him. He played high school, Canadian high school hockey.
Oh, wait. I didn't even know they had that.
Exactly. And it's and I'm watching him out there. He looked like a men against boys, and he's 14. And yeah, just dominated. Then he went to Stratford, dominated. And this is actually a funny story. So the whole plan for him was to go to college. And so Jerry York was my coach. So Jerry came up to Dryden to kind of convince Chris, if you're going to go to college, you should come to Bowling Green and play with your brother. And meanwhile, all the other big schools would be like all over him if they knew he was going to, go to college. So Jerry came up, and my dad took him on a fishing trip, like a float plane, like middle of nowhere into somewhere. Well, they had weather issues, so they got stranded there for till it's almost too late where they have to spend the night. And they come back. For some reason, I thought they were going to go somewhere else. Anyway, I'm having a party downstairs. I'm on his team. My mom's having a party. There's like 40-year-old women in hot tubs. Me and my buddies are hammered in the basement, and then all of a sudden my dad comes in. I'm like, fuck.
Hey, coach.
Coach, I think, coach, I have a German beer stein. I'm walking up the stairs. I'm like, hey, coach. He's like, hey, Sean. Because, if you've talked, he's fucking awesome. So that was his trip. So anyway, Chris, the whole plan for him was to go to college. And then like in the OHL draft, he went in the 6th round to Peterborough because he said he wasn't going. Detroit offered him, I think, a Corvette. If he would agree to go play in the OHL, they had the first pick. We'll give you a Corvette.
The Whalers?
They were the
Knights before the Knights.
it was Detroit. Was it CompuWare?
CompuWare,
I think
maybe?
it was CompuWare.
Yeah.
Like back in the So they were going to give him a Corvette, and so then he plays a year in Stratford, and I remember sitting in the basement with my dad and him, and it's like, so my dad's like, so what do you think Chris should do? And I said, honestly, I think he should go play junior. And the draft had already happened, and Chris goes, for fuck's sakes, I could have had a fucking Corvette. But anyway, went to Peterborough, and I think it worked out.
It worked out
all right.
Good.
Yeah.
And you said that to him just basically because he was so good.
So good. Like, you have to wait. You have to play another year in Stratford.
Yeah. Almost hindered his development.
Oh, you hit the plateau.
So you kind of made a few references jokingly about like what not to do. Like, so when you were coming up in the summer times, were you maybe not taking it as serious, partying a little bit more, where he seemed to just have this like hyperdrive focus and kind of kept in line?
Not in the early days. He did not.
He was a party boy.
Yeah, like, so it wasn't until he was super talented. I mean, he was committed during the season, but we'd do the same things in the summer. Like, we'd work out, but we'd like golf and fish and, dick around with their buddies and that. Yeah. But it wasn't until I think he got a trainer, like a legit nutrition, like on a program. But I think it was like it was the playoffs of '96 when Detroit beat them in Game 7, beat St. Louis.
The Yzerman goal.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was like the turning point because he became he dominated that playoff. I think they went 2 rounds and he was dominant and then just never stopped. Like, cause he got traded from Hartford to St. Louis for the most popular player, Brendan Shanahan. And so he comes into camp. He finished second last in the 2-mile run. This is they signed him to a 6-year contract for $14 million or something like that. And this got rid of their favorite player, the 50-goal scorer. And this guy rolls into camp and, he basically beats Grant Fuhr in the 2-mile run. Like, that's it. And so, so Mike Keaton was a coach and was all over him. Like, I swear to God, he was trying to make him quit. And he didn't quit. He just stuck with it. Like, I think they traded for Gretzky that year. And I think Keaton told Chris, like, hey, Gretzky doesn't like you. And I think I was just kind of making up shit. So Chris walks back in the room like, fuck you, Wayne. Like, and he goes, and then, his coming out party was at playoffs. And then he,
Iron Mike was probably like, I'll make him quit or I'll make him one of the best ever.
But if you watch him, like him, he took Ole Jokinen like that. I think Joe Thornton like that. Like, he is good with young, like, up and coming stars because he just rides the shit out of them.
RA mentioned that you were drafted by Van, but your first team was Anaheim. Yeah. So, like, how did it go in terms of the draft or then signing? Like, what was the road?
How much time did we got?
We have as much time as you want.
The draft? Fuck. So my dad, no one had, we didn't have somebody to like lean on in Dryden. Like, hey, when you went to the draft, what did you like?
There was no one guy who would set the table for you guys from Dryden.
One guy got drafted like the 9th round in 1982, like maybe. So like there's nothing to follow and no one to like say, hey, make sure you do this. Like, so there was talk like I could go in the. Like, I think I had to go in the top 3 rounds or you can't get drafted back then. But I'm like, there's a chance I can get drafted. My dad's like, let's go. I'm like, all right. So we book our flights, fly to Toronto, and then it was in Buffalo, drive to Buffalo, book our own room. I had one interview set up with Vancouver. And then it's draft day. I'm like, all right, we just park with everybody and walk in with everybody, like all the fans. So I'm sitting up with the fans. So it's me, my assistant coach at Bowling Green, my teammate, my dad, and me. And I'm up there. And it's like, and then the shit that goes through your head, I'm like, what if, the first round is like, what if they take a flyer, right? I know I had 3 goals this year, but like, It could happen. Like I don't remember Sergei Bowden. He got drafted like 10th overall by the Jets.
No.
No one even knew. Like they drafted him. Like people were like, "Who the fuck is that?" So like 5% of me's going like, "What if they take a flyer?" Like,
I could go top 5.
yeah, I get like 7th pick, top 10. No, I think it was Alex Stoyanov went 7th, and then it goes to the second round. I'm like, oh, second round. And I keep going, like, I got 3 goals this year. I'm a fucking forward. And no, it was Cullimore, and then third round, Sean Pronger. I'm like, awesome. Hug, whatever. Now I'm like, how do I get down there? Like, I'm in the upper bowl. I'm in where the fans are. Like, I watched a million drafts. Like,
Nobody
I don't
knows
even
you're
wanna be
there.
Right. The camera's not even like, where is he?
Yeah,
So then, like, I got to negotiate with the security guard. I go, hey, I just got drafted. He goes, sure you did. I go, dude, here's my name. Did you hear it? He's like, no, you can't come down. You should be sitting down. I go, I know I should be sitting down there, but no one told us where to go. So after 15 minutes of negotiating, I get down there, and I realize how far, because then Steve Tambellini, who's with the Canucks, who I interviewed with, is sort of like, he's like, where the fuck is this guy? I know he's here. And so by the time I got down there, I think I was like 5 picks after for pictures. So that's how late I was getting there. But the draft happened, and then I played the rest of my college career.
Never thought about leaving early.
No, I mean, there was a moment after my junior year where I had a decent year. I feel like they have to come to you for the
Yeah.
and they didn't. So I'm like, all right. And then senior year, I was an average senior year, and I actually went to spring break, and I remember talking to my dad, and he's like, "You sure you should be going? What if they like want to sign you?" I go, "I'm literally lubed up in like sunscreen, like suntan oil. I got like a cowboy hat on." I'm like, well, I guess I'll just have to make that decision if it happens. No, obviously, it doesn't happen. And then, my summer after my senior year, I had to stay for summer school due to poor course management. So I graduate in August, and at that time, when I'm at Bowling Green, Vancouver decides that because the 94 lockout is looming, 94 is looming, and so they somehow figured out some math and said, we don't feel Sean has a 75% chance of making the team in the next 3 years, so we're gonna release him. And I'm like, actually, this may be good. Like, I could
pick anyone.
Yeah. So my agent lets me know, and then he's like, hey, Detroit wants to sign you. You're gonna get $75,000 and whatever. I'm like, fucking sign it. Let's go. He's like, all right, I'll call you tomorrow. Calls me tomorrow. He's like, I got some bad news. I go, what? They don't want to give me 75? It's like, no, the GM got fired. And I'm like, let me guess. They don't want to sign anybody.
No.
Yeah. So I'm back to nothing.
How many teams were in the NHL then?
6. No, I'm kidding. Funny. Yeah, no.
Well, I guess it was like 24.
20.
Yeah.
So I went. It was 22, I think. Yeah, I think. So San Jose just got in. So I think they made 22. I think.
Yeah, because it was 21 for a long time.
Yeah.
Then they had the 90s.
Yeah, because your buddy Whitney was second round pick.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for San Jose.
Yeah. Pat Falloon was the first pick.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, so now I'm sitting there in Bowling Green, and I got nothing. I'm like, I have nothing. I'm fucked. And so my agent's like, Sean, I'm going to get you something. I'm like, all right, Pat, go get him. And I shouldn't even say my agent. I got no fight. It's like Chris's agent.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to help your idiot brother out. Let's do this. So it's like, all right, I got you a tryout with Vegas in the IHL, like the old IHL. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, here we go.
The guy had $75,000 2 days ago.
Yeah. Now minus 75.
Now I'm like, we got a marker at the Imperial Palace. So I'm like, I mean, that's the best we got. So I roll into Vegas. Actually played, had a great training camp. And we're staying at the Imperial Palace, which was owned by the guy, Ralph Engelstad, who's a North Dakota big guy. So he loved hockey guys. I think he might have passed away by then. But anyway, one of the other things with the IP is every time you go to the buffet for breakfast, they give you an ace, like a free ace. So on the way to practice, I would sit at the blackjack table and let the ace play. And I'm like, this is kind of awesome. So like for 30 days, I had an ace in my...
Come on.
Every hand.
You could actually do that?
Yeah, that back then. This was in 1994.
That was
shit, huh?
So the ace, literally, it was a giant cardboard ace. Like it was like a Happy Gilmore
So what do you mean? Like as the blackjack
so
dealer
you sit down
deals, you
and you
could
just-
use it as a token?
You start off with an ace. Like that's your first card.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
They don't do that anymore.
Oh,
obviously.
yeah,
yeah.
you think?
No, they got.
No,
They can't
anyway.
even get into your hotel room now. There's a 14-hour line, right, RA?
Yeah, like last few weeks.
That was
yeah,
a grind my gears
Yeah.
for RA. It's how Vegas went to shit. We don't need to get into
Yeah.
it now, but
Yeah.
That's how it used
towards
to be.
the
Though.
end.
That's an
Right.
example.
Yeah, IP's long gone.
But
too.
Yeah, so Vegas, I mean, so I'm like thinking if I can make this team, and I'm like, there's a chance. Like, you know, when you do training camp math, you're like, all right, I'm better than that guy. If that guy stays or that guy, like, there's a there is a chance I can make the team. Looking at the roster, I'm like, there's a chance. So I'm leading the camp in scoring. Like, things are going great. I'm playing good. All of a sudden, the lockout of 94, boom, happens. Vegas gets like 5 NHL guys. And I'm just like, ugh, there's no chance. This is like mid-September, so I could have like went somewhere else, but like I can't leave. They gotta cut me. So I just like keep showing up and they keep not cutting me. So I'm like, I know there is no room for me. And I'm just like, all right, there's a jersey in my stall. I'm getting per diem. And I
an ace?
I got an ace. And so I just keep showing up and I keep playing well, but I'm like, it's mathematically impossible. So now the calendar flips to October. I'm still there. The season's going to start in 3 days. I finally get the old coach wants to see you. I go, fucking finally. Go there. Sean, we got to let you go. Yeah, no shit. You could have done this 2 weeks ago. So now, like, got nowhere to go. Go back to Toronto to, like, regroup. And then I had, like, 3 choices. I could have went to England to play. My old midget coach is a coach there. I'm like, interesting. I could go to Knoxville, Tennessee, which is an affiliate of Vegas, because they like the way I play. They're like, okay, let's keep tabs on them. Or I could quit. And I'm
So
like,
at this point, the NHL,
oh,
to you,
dude,
is
I'm like,
I'm
it
not
couldn't
playing
be further. It couldn't be further. I mean, it was so like, I'm just trying to get to the end of October.
Yeah.
So I'm like, England sounds cool, but like if I go over there, I'm never coming back. Like I'm not going to be able to come back and play.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, let's go to Knoxville. And a college kid, like you hear all the horror stories of the coast. Like I'm like, oh fuck.
I can only imagine how bad it was back then.
Oh my god, yeah. So I roll into Knoxville. I'm like, I didn't even know they had a team.
The
I don't even know-
Cherokee.
Was there even like a PHPA back then?
I don't think so. Well,
Yeah.
certainly not in the East Coast League. Like,
And I've seen a lot of shit go down in the Cheese Toast League. So, so this must have been quite the experience.
oh my god, we get down there. I get down there and just like, we're playing exhibition games in Birmingham and like, it's like just a roster of tough guys. I'm like, and as a tall guy,
Yeah.
like, oh,
Want to go?
you're fucking
Doesn't
dead.
matter.
yeah, I'm
you're
gonna
a
get
victim.
you.
You're like, I played at Bowling Green.
Yeah, guys, I got a varsity jacket. You want to check it out? Like, can we like ease into this? God.
Yeah. Check the game notes. I haven't played any pro yet, please.
Exactly. Could you just let me pick the smallest guy? Fuck. Actually, no, I would like a bigger guy so it doesn't look as bad when I get beat up.
Yeah.
So playing the coast and then, like I thought I was making good money. I'm like $500 a week. This is great. And then we had an opportunity, me and 2 other guys, 2 teammates, a guy approached us about like, hey, he bought a farm. He's going to tear down the house that's on it and build a mansion, but he's not doing it till the spring. So if you want to live in this house, you can live rent-free on the farm. They got a barn. So we go check it out. This is probably early October. We check it out. So the weather's not bad. We check out the barn. I'm like, this is fucking great. Like we can have parties in here. Like there's a big bar like 10 minutes away. Like we bring everybody back. Let's do it. There's a horseshoe pit. Done. So we take it. We're living in a farmhouse. There's no fucking heat, no cable, no like nothing. It's like
How many guys?
there's me and 2 other guys. Like it is a shithole. And then the weather turns. Like I didn't realize it got cold in Tennessee. Oh, it does. And the pipes froze. So now it's like if you anything other than a piss, you got to drive down to the Flying J truck stop, which is 15-minute drive.
No way.
You guys were showering the
Dig
whole
a
year.
latrine.
We went, I'd
truck
shower
stop?
at the rink and then come back and like, what am I doing? My parents came to visit. Like, I remember the look on my dad's face. He's like,
He's like, the mill's got spots
Yeah.
for you, bud.
tons of spots there. And so anyway, I'm like, oh, I'm going to finish this fucking year. And then it was right at almost like the breaking point. My agent called. He's like, hey, I just want to let you know, there's a NHL team that wants to sign you when the lockout ends. And I'm like, when the fuck's the lockout?
So you were playing good then.
I was playing good. Yeah, I was playing good. It was fun. I think everybody else, like the talent got pushed down, like so NHL, the marginal guys went to the IHL and AHL. The marginal AHL guys got pushed down to the East Coast League. So it was like really, I mean, the hockey was really good. And it was playing, the guys were great. I was having fun playing. And yeah, it was great. And then he drops out on me. And then I'm like, when's the lockout? And he's like, I don't know. So then I call Chris. I go, hey, how's it going? Good. When the fuck are you guys going to take the deal? I'm like, let's get your brother out of here.
Help a brother out.
Right. Literally help a brother out. And then, I continue to play. And then Pat calls me, or my agent calls me. He's like, hey, Anaheim Ducks. I'm like, awesome. He's like, they're going to sign you. You don't have to play tonight, but you're not leaving till tomorrow. So you could play or not play. So that was like fuck, do I play or not? Like, what if I get hurt?
Yeah.
Like, they're going to sign you anyway. I'm like, all right, fine. So I played, and then I felt awful. I felt like I was getting released, and everybody, because the boys were getting on the bus to go to like Nashville for a game, and I'm like flying out to go meet the team in San Diego because the Ducks team was in San Diego. So that was an interesting turn of events. So then I get to San Diego thinking, I'm like, all right, here I come now, and then scratch for like first 10 games and like fucking hey. Yeah.
Thanks for signing me.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys wanted me.
Oh my God! Yeah, and then I thought like, well, I'm not progressing if I don't play. So I asked to get sent back I literally asked to get sent back to the coast, thinking I would get sent back to Knoxville.
All your buddies.
No, Anaheim's at their own.
Yeah, right.
Greensboro. I went. Jeff Brubaker. I don't know if you remember that name.
No.
He was a menace as a player.
He was the coach or just on the team?
He was a coach. Yeah, so I go to Greensboro. I'm there for two games. This is all my first year pro. 2 games, I take a slap shot in the face. I go down, like I'm in front of the net. I go down, I'm thinking like, okay, my jaw's broken. And I'm for some reason I thought like my jaw would unhinge. And so I'm like holding it like this. I get up, the trader's running out, and I like I skate past them, like racing to like, just to see what it looks like. Because I didn't want to like freak out the kids in the front row, like when my jaw hits my chest. So I go into the locker room. I'm like this. I'm like, all right, drop it, and nothing happens. I'm like, oh, but blood's pouring out. So I could stick my tongue between my teeth.
Oh no!
And I'm like, oh, I lost a tooth. And I'm like, no, they're all there. The doctor comes in, like the East Coast League doctor, who's like half in the bag.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. He's got the wood.
They got the veterinarians at that level. That's what I say.
Exactly.
Send the vets.
Oh my God. So yeah, so he comes in, he like checks out. Oh, I think you just cut your gum. I'm like, all right, doc, thank you. He's like, so I go back out, play the third period, overtime. I go in the shootout. I think we lost the game. Come back in. I'm like, doc, there's something wrong with my face. And he's like, oh, let me take another look. Oh, it looks like you're cut and you have a bruise in your gum. I go, okay. All right, so I get on the bus. I think we were in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I get on the bus. We had pizza. I go to take a bite of the pizza, and I literally almost like passed out from the pain. So I just sat there for a 2-hour drive back to Greensboro, drinking my own blood. All right, I get there. Because I just got there, I'm in a hotel. I don't have a vehicle.
Come on.
So I'm in my home hotel, as I like to call it. So I go there, I get up the next day, a teammate drives me to practice, and I go to the trainer, I go, dude, my face is fucked. Like,
this isn't just a bruise.
This is not a bruise. Yeah, the, fucking super doctor.
Johnny Sins, the doctor.
Yeah. So I go to practice, and I'm like, hey, there's something wrong with my face. Can I see somebody, like, for the love of God? And he's like, yeah. After practice, we'll get you over there. I go, I got to practice? He's like, yeah. So I practice, get a drive over to the place, get an x-ray. Your jaw's broken. I'm like, yeah, you think?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
That's when the PHPA was created.
Exactly. It was that day.
Are you kidding me?
It was that day. So
they couldn't diagnose a broken jaw by staring at it.
I knew it was broken the minute the puck hit me.
You're telling me that it
was displaced.
It had basically separated where your chin
right
is.
Here, like I got hit here, it cracked here, and I could stick my tongue through there. And the doc just couldn't see it. And I'm like, how can no one else see this? Like,
you're like, all the teeth are here, but they're this far apart.
Right.
But you have a second mouth.
Exactly. So anyway, I go get my jaw. So the doc's like, okay, we're going to do wires shut. I'm like, all right, fine. So then he's like, make sure you get the pain medication before you come to surgery. And I'm like, all right. But I'm like, I'm in a hotel. I'm going to call a cab to go to the CVS. So I'm like, I'll get it after. So I go get, wired shut. And it was like morning surgery, and then come back, and it's fine. Like, nothing hurts. I'm like, what the fuck's the big deal? Dumb, because I was still under the effects of the.
Oh yeah.
So, but 1 a.m, I wake up and I'm in agony, and I'm like trying like to claw these wires off my teeth, and I was in so much pain. And it's 1 a.m, like nothing's open. I don't have a car
In Greensboro.
in Greensboro. Yeah, so I literally ran a hot bath, crawled into it. It got cold. I emptied it and filled it up for 6 hours, and then I walked to the CVS, waited for them to open, got my stuff, and I'm just like, now I'm just miserable, and so I'm stuck here. I'm in a hotel with my jaw wired shut. I got no vehicle.
You got no wife.
I don't know. I just met these guys. Now I can't even talk to them because I made my jaw wired shut.
Oh.
So then I would drink 3 Ensure shakes for breakfast, McDonald's milkshake for like snack in the middle, 3 Ensure shakes for lunch, McDonald's shake for a snack, 3 Ensure shakes for dinner, and then I drink 6 or 8 beers a night. But I have to warm them up because I'm drinking them through my teeth. So fucking yeah. So my vehicle, I had a great Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Pro hockey at its finest.
Right, like a Jeep Grand Cherokee in San Diego, and it's getting picked up and getting shipped across. So it should be here. It's not here. I call the place with my jaw wired shut. I'm calling from a payphone in the back of the bar because I don't have there's no cell phones back then. So I call. The shipping company, I'm like, hey, where's my truck? It's like, well, it wasn't there when we went to pick it up. I go, what? Yeah, your car was not there. It was right in front of the Travel Lodge, like outside, across from the rink in San Diego. And I'm like, okay. So I call the hotel. I go, is there a white Jeep Grand Cherokee there? They're like, yeah, there was. I go, is there one anymore? And they're like, no, it's gone. I'm like, okay. So then I call the cops and I go, I think someone's on my car.
No.
Yeah, as it turns out.
The same fucking time you'd broken your jaw?
I'm talking to the cops on a payphone with my jaw wired shut.
Oh
my God.
This isn't a top-tier bad
This is depressing. I mean,
I know, dude. Yeah. So so I wrote that in the book, and I'm like, it's not meant as to scare people off, but this is what, yeah.
The coast will fucking humble you, man. That's what it's.
My God. Well said.
It'll really make you question whether you love hockey that much.
And so, yeah. And then it was like that summer, I sat down at the table as I'm filling out the insurance forms for all the items that were in my car. The custom fit Titleist.
Oh yeah.
The Armani suits that were in there.
6 diamond rings.
So my dad's like, Sean, that's insurance fraud. I go, yeah. The year I had, and I could just see him. I could just see the look on his face. He's like.
And that's when the PHPA was created.
He's like, do you really want to, he didn't say it, but he's like, do you want to really do this again? Because I had another 2 years on my contract. And I'm just like, you know what? Let's see how this year goes. And so I stuck it out and didn't quit. And yeah, that literally the next, my first call up would have been in November, then next year.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, and to draw it back to the book that Whit was talking about, how that all came to be was at a certain point, Chris had started a website.
Yes.
Right? And he was talking about, what it was like during training camp and all of his hockey experiences. And then you were able to write on the website in replies, and you kind of described, no. This is what most professional athletes in the hockey world have to go through. And then you would start listing off stories exactly like the one you just told of this chaos of playing in the minors. So that's kind of what spitball kind of your post career and everybody knowing you were a bit of a character.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole whiskey with the name of the journey is because all that shit that happened, whenever it happens, that was not the end of it, but shit happens to you. I'm like, all right, I can't wait to tell the fucking boys this. We're gonna have a drink this summer. I'm gonna tell them it's gonna be awesome. So half the shit I do, I just say yes to do it. Whatever it is, even now, just for the story, just for the fucking story.
Well, I mean, you obviously went on to have more success in the NHL, but it's just cool that you got to experience this side of it of pro hockey. Right?
No, it was. I mean, I don't regret any of it. If you would have showed me how my career would have went before, okay, you can do this. Or you can, I'm like, I'll do that, whatever the fuck that is. I'm not doing that. But I'm when you're young and you don't know any better, you just kind of blindly go. And I'm glad I did it. It taught me a lot about resolve and being and just resilient and just keep showing up and good things happen. But yeah, and it was actually fun to write the book because I was writing it from a safe place. Nothing bad's gonna happen. It got to the point where I didn't even buy green bananas. I was like, I might not be here long enough for them to get ripe, so I'm not buying. Yeah, so.
So do you remember the first call up? I mean, I'm sure you do, but I was in Walt. Walt called me. I didn't believe him. Then get on the plane,
And I remember everything. I sit at the Residence Inn.
That's
I remember like Randy Lattisour. He's like, "Welcome to the show, kid. First of many." I'm just like, "This is fucking awesome."
You're like, you sure?
Yeah.
Did they tell you something?
Like how many do like when you say first of many?
Yeah, Ron Wilson was the coach. What was your first game like? There was anything memorable happen?
I don't know if you guys had Ron on here, but he is a beauty. He was awesome. He's like, "Prongs, welcome. First game, you're starting." I'm like,
no shit.
Oh,
huh?
that's awesome.
no, it was great. It was great. Yeah, he was awesome. He was that guy was ahead of his time, like video, and he was a great coach. I think he
was pretty hard to play for.
Yeah,
he got it in his own way. Like, so he had the two of the best players in the world at the time, Korea and Solani. And he I was on what we like to call the fifth line that played. So it was like, 1, 2, 3, 1, 5, 1, 2, 3, like.
Yeah.
But I thought he was a great coach. But he shot himself. That year that it was the second year I was there, we made the playoffs the first time. We actually had home ice advantage, and we got to the second round and lost to Detroit in 4 straight. But it was like single overtime, double overtime, triple overtime. So it was like really close. Detroit went on to win the Stanley Cup, but like after the series, I don't know if it was after or during the series, Ron was saying like, his dream job would be to coach the Detroit Red Wings. Like this is as he's coaching.
Yeah, it's like,
Oh no, that's a horrible soundbite.
You're smarter than that. Yeah. No, I really like.
He was what? He was like trying to pay them a compliment over the
something
course
like that. He's from that area, I think, and so I don't know what his goal was, but he didn't re-sign with Anaheim.
no.
He went to.
How did you guys take it in the room? Like, did this come out in the middle?
I think it came out after. Like, I think it came out after. Because if it would have
Okay.
came out during, like, he would have had to address it. But yeah, I was like, come on, Ron, what are you doing? And then he got a job with the Capitals and took them to Stanley Cup and lost again to Detroit in the finals.
Oh God,
that was like the back to. Remember Detroit won 97, 98?
No way. So they got them both years.
Twice. Yeah.
Jeez, I never even thought of that.
What was like Korea like then? Because so dominant, like definitely a different guy from all the stories I've heard. Like super serious, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. I would say probably one of the most focused, if not the most focused athlete ever.
Yeah. Somebody told me, and it's like, it could be like wives' tales at this point. Like he would chew every bite of food like 24 times to digest it better, like a lunatic.
Yeah, lunatic.
very regimented.
Oh my God, yeah. And to this day, he's like that. Like he is like that.
Yeah, there was a cool thing on it. Remember you surfing a few years ago?
There's a TSN piece.
Yeah, it was like, I can't remember the name of it, but it was really cool the way they did it. Because I didn't realize how bad his concussion stuff was, but it was really bad. But him and Timu were roommates. They'd put him under at the hotel. Theodore Flash and Tony Montana were their handles.
Who is Tony Montana?
Korea. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got Theodore Flash. Who's that?
The furthest guy from doing a line.
Well, they were like the odd couple. You got like Paul, like so focused, so like he's at the rink. He does everything the same every single game day. Like eats the same thing. Like just. And then you got Timo just bumbles in whenever he feels like.
Yep.
Like,
I heard Carlisle like would always look for him to be late, and he would stroll in like 1 minute before he would be too
And he
late.
get dressed in 2 seconds before the game.
he would exactly. He would like. So let's just say the game's at 7:30. Like you got to be like back then it was like an hour and a half. Who knows now? It's gonna be there 3 hours, but you had to be there by 6. Like 5:59, 30. It's like he was on here. I'm like, just wait. He'll be fucking here. Strolls in as the clock.
Yeah.
He's in. And then he goes and hangs out with the trainers. Like, you don't even see him. He hangs out there till 5 minutes before you go on for warm up. And then he gets dressed and goes out and like just
Gets 2.
Yeah, at least. Exactly.
And at that time, what was the fan base like? Were they drawing well? Were things popular? Because it was pretty soon after it started here where the buzz from the movies kind of kept it going for a while.
Yeah, so like I got there, so 93 that was the first year, 93, 94. And then, so I was there 96, 97, like the spring of 97 is when we made the playoffs, and it was jammed and they were going nuts. It was like,
really,
it was insane. It was like the first, we clinched the playoff spot. The roof came off the place. Like, and then we played Phoenix in the first round, went to game 7, won in game 7 in Anaheim. It was awesome.
And it's been the pond. It was
the pond then. Yeah.
But it's been this rink the whole time.
The whole time.
Yeah.
And from there, you went to Pittsburgh, the first of, I believe, 6 NHL trades you were a part of, huh?
Yeah, that trade was funny because my Scott Young, so this is 98 now, Scott Young was on the Ducks, he was Stanley Cup champion and his contract was up. So he'd have been a perfect guy, trade deadline's coming. It's like, this guy's getting traded for sure. Like, some team's going to have some sort of depth and experience, and he's like the prototypical guy that you would want. So he's my roommate. So it's deadline day, and we're hanging out in the room together, and I'm like, Scotty, like, where do you want to go? And he's like, I don't know. I kids, and I got a wife, the usual stuff. Like, do I want to uproot everybody? I'm like, well, it'll be a couple months. It'll be fine. And so deadline comes and goes. We're in Chicago. It's like, all right, I'm gonna go to the gym. I'll be back. We'll grab dinner. I'm glad you're here. So then I'm at the gym, like off-site gym, and I get a page over the thing, like, Sean Pronger, please come to the front desk. I'm like, younger, adult. So I go down there, and he's like, yeah, call your roommate. So I call him. Still no cell phones. Like, I call him. I go, Scotty, where are you going? He's like, have you talked to the coach? I go, about what? You got to call the coach. I'm like, what is it? He's like, he's looking for you. I'm like, all right. I'm like, this is fucking weird. So then I call the coach. He's like, have you talked to the GM? I go, I haven't.
No.
Talk to the GM. He's like, well, you should call the GM. I'm like,
I was at Globo Gym.
literally. So I'm like, call the GM. He's like, Sean, we traded to Pittsburgh. I'm like, okay. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, I don't even know what place Pittsburgh's in. I look. So Anaheim, we were like in last place, second last. Pittsburgh second overall in the conference. I'm like, all right, back in the playoffs.
Here we go, Mario.
Exactly. So anyway, yeah, I get traded to Pittsburgh, and awesome guys, like, great team, and like Tom Brasso. I don't know if you've heard stories about him.
I've heard he's
we have. We've heard
I've heard he's a grumpy
Oh my
guy.
God,
he's going into the Hall of Fame in the next couple of days.
Yeah. Monday.
He was. I mean,
Him,
he
Vernon, Lundqvist. It's a big goalie.
I mean, his nickname was Dorn, like Roger Dorn.
Oh, no shit, huh? Oh,
I mean,
Just hated rookie.
oh my God. And so I would go down and shoot. I mean, I've heard I'm like, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to hit him in the shoulder. So everything I go down and like shoot right at his pads. And so because I've seen him, like, someone will shoot high on him, and he'll take the puck, and like as you go back in line, he's firing it at you. So I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy. So I'm in the pillows every time. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll try to go 5-hole, like, and so I hit him with the pass, and he comes over. He goes, Prongs, you can try to score. I go, I can score on the backup, buddy. I'm not trying to score on you. But yeah, great guys on the team, and I will say this: the coach, Kevin Constantine, we got out-coached. We played Montreal in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and he just wasn't capable of like coach, like, to the point where they had
who was coaching the Canadians then?
It was I think it was Elena Vigneault, I think, and they had Zarli Zalapsky.
Wow,
like an unbelievable skater, right? Who's a defenseman. They moved him up to forward. They created this like checking unit to shut Jagr down. So we have home ice. We're starting, like, we got our, the coach sees who's on the other side. So they got their whole defensive, like Zarli Zalapsky playing wing that would match up against Jagr. Constantine puts our top line.
No, it's like, we want to keep them away from.
Yeah, well, I'm like, am I the only one that's fucking sees this? Like, we want Jagr away from that guy because he can skate with him. And yeah, so anyway, we lost in 6, and that was the end of that.
But that was first round.
First round, yeah, upset.
Well, we asked you about Timu in Korea. Jagr, just a fucking beast,
dude. That guy he is so strong, so good. He, like, Robert Lang was like jacked, like built, like he took care of himself in the gym. You'd have 225 on there, like crank out 12 of them. And then Jagr, like, was like off to the side, like kind of looking at him like he's never seen this exercise before. He's like, how much is that? Like, everybody knows 2 pizzas, it's 225. He's like, how much is that? It's like 2.25. So he gets under there, like, arms, they're not even like evened up. Like, he just grabs it and just like muscles it up 12 times. Like he's never done bench before. And I'm like, this dude's, I mean, this guy was best of
the natural.
Yeah, he was amazing player. He was very temperamental back then, though.
What's that mean?
Oh, like, if he didn't,
like,
have
if things were like,
yes.
if he wasn't happy with the coach, he'd skate off the ice and like, something's wrong with my skate, and go like,
He wouldn't say he had something wrong with the coach. He would
actually skate and be like, and go, because in Pittsburgh you go off like, it's not.
The
eagle in the corner, right?
Yeah,
yeah. But I mean, what a player.
Did you see him? He was known for his gambling. Was he fucking playing on the plane?
I didn't see any of that. There were some guys who were gambling, but I didn't.
The big
see
swinging dicks.
Yeah, well, it was like the big swinging dicks and Tyler Wright were on that. Like, it was like Brasso, Hatcher, like all the guys making multi-millions, and then you got like, league minimum playing with the big boys. Probably winning the money though, if I had to guess.
Yeah, that's why he's playing.
Exactly.
He's like, I know what I'm doing here.
Exactly.
During the time in Pittsburgh, you also played a few games with the Houston Aeros back in the old IHL. Now, that's frequently gets mentioned as a city that doesn't have an NHL team. Do you think a team would work there?
I do. I mean, it was, mind you, we were like, I think we were first. That was the year they won the championship. If I could do anything in my career over again, I would have tried not to get out of there. Like I would try, I got sent down to Houston, and I'm like, when you get sent down after you've been in the NHL for, it's like, I just want to get back.
Yeah.
Like I got sent, I was on the only one way of my career. I was on a one-way, so I made more playing in Texas than I did playing up in the NHL because it's state tax.
Business.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Oh, and you're saying it almost would have been better had you not got called up?
Yeah, because I could have stayed there. I was playing great. They had great players. Like they ended up winning the championship that season, but like they had like an NHL roster. Like it was awesome, and I was so worried about getting called up again. And so I just like had my agent grinding. So and then I played there. Houston was awesome. Like I think they could handle it, but I mean, what the fuck do I know? Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Biz, as long as they don't leave Arizona, Biz is happy.
I'm good. I'm Gucci.
You like your team there?
I think that it's a great market. They just need to figure out an arena situation, put it in a place.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where would you put it? Because like the word, it was obviously awful.
Yeah. I would probably say North Scottsdale could work just as much. I would probably rather at North Scottsdale more than Mesa, and Mesa's another place they're looking. I just think that North Scottsdale is more suburbia, where there's not really any entertainment up there. So if you had a pro team, like there's enough money there where people can afford tickets.
Yeah.
Because they have supplementary income. What's the word I'm looking for? Disposable income. That's the one. Jesus Christ. OHL education right
1994
there,
college graduate.
had a brain fart. But yeah, I think it could. And you talk about TV market. By the time it's done growing, you're probably talking easily top 5 in the United States. And that's the big focus, right? If you already have that TV market, why fuck around?
Yeah.
Next, you get trades to the Rangers. You had some big names in that trade. You and Peter Nedved, Chris Tamer for Kovalev, Harry York, a couple of big names.
And $15 million. Yeah, so the way
Pitt needed money then.
Yeah. It was like so it was Nedved for Kovalev, Tamer for York, Pronger for $15 million. Is how I tell my kids. I tell my kids. Yeah, that was like so. I got called into the coach's office in Pittsburgh. It just got called up from Houston. Second game back up, and they get called in. I'm like, oh fuck, I guess I'm going back to Houston. He's like, Sean, we just traded in New York. I'm like, oh, okay. The Rangers. I'm like, really? I perked up, and he's like, he looked at me like, well, you seem
why are you so
happy? Why are you happy? And I'm like, dude, the fucking Madison Square Garden, this would be great. Like one of my best friends growing up lives in the city. I'm like, this is gonna be fantastic. I'm gonna commit to this. But yeah, so played in New York briefly.
Did you play with Gretzky?
I did
for a bit, right? Yeah,
I did. I played with Gretzky. Funny story about that. So I was playing there and nothing was going. Like I was scratched like every other game. Like when I got there, I was a healthy scratch. And then I'm like, so I had.
Who was the coach then?
So it was John Muckler was the coach, like who I grew up watching with the Oilers. Like yeah. So
Hall of Famer, right?
Right. And then Craig McTavish, who I grew up watching, he's now the assistant coach. Charlie Huddy, assistant coach. Keith Acton, assistant coach. You guys are all grew up. Plus all the guys on the team. You had Gretzky, Graves, Richter, Leach, Samuelson, Bukaboom, John McClain. Like these are all like guys I just grew up watching. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm gonna do whatever I can do to stay here somehow. And hey, Prongs, welcome to the Rangers. You're not going tonight. I'm like, fuck. Right, here we go.
Like I'm going out.
Yeah. So I kept it on the rails as much as I could. I'm like, all right, so I had the strength guy. Okay, build me some sort of bike program. Like, I'll keep me in shape. Like, I'm gonna do everything right. So I finally get into a game, play good, scratch for 2. Get into a game, play pretty good, scratch for 2. Get into a game, me, Manny Malhotra, and Darren Langdon were the fourth line. 0 minutes, Malhotra 0 minutes. Langdon went and took a face-off and came off. He had like 1 second.
They played 9-4.
They played 9-4 the entire game.
That's when you're like, I don't know if this is
right. So
work.
I'm like, just like, fuck, what do I got to do? And so I think the final straw was we run a road trip and we're playing Carolina. And it was like a big game. Like, I think it was a 5-game losing streak. And like, people were starting getting traded. So the whole players only meeting. And Todd Harvey was, on the team. He's actually playing. He played great in New York. and he was banged up his hand. So we go, it's like the morning skate coming off. It's like, I stay on to get bag skated. And McTavish comes over. He's like, hey, Prongs, Harvey might not be able to go. So if you don't want to skate, you don't have to, like with the Black Aces. And I know what it's like to have an extra body out there. Like, I'm not going to leave these guys behind.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out there, get bag skated. So then, of course, stay there long enough to get back. There's no food in the hotel when you get back. So don't bother eating. I order like room service, like 4 scoops of chocolate ice cream. Me and Tamer watch a movie. Go to the rink. Don't even tape my stick. Don't do anything. Get out there, dick around and warm up. Come off. Prongs, you're going. I'm like,
oh no.
What? You're going. I'm like,
where's the power bars?
I'm like, fuck.
Somebody get me a power bar.
I need tape. I need laces. I need a lot of shit here. Let's go. So I go out. I have 2 helpers. We win 6-2. I'm like, maybe I've been doing this wrong the whole time. Maybe less is more.
Yeah.
Right. So then next game I get scratched for 5 straight after that. Like we win in the biggest game of our season.
2 apples?
I played on the 3rd line with Savard and Graves, 2 helpers, played like 15 minutes. I'm like, this is great. I'm back.
How do you get scratched after that one?
Like it was, we went to
this
Denver.
is the time where like the coach, they wouldn't even say a word to you though, right?
No.
Like you had no feedback. It's just
Nothing.
like, you're not playing.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, you're not going.
I feel like now they tell the guys
Well, you have
why.
to now. Right. Yeah. You have to now.
Yeah,
Right?
Oh, yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, it's going to be a whole,
The parents will be calling you.
HR is going to call you.
Yeah. Parents will be on the phone.
So the one,
That's Lane
I'll get
Kiffin's
off
the coach.
Yeah, I'll get off this. I remember me. So Asa Tikkanen was on the team as well. Who was you got to have this.
Oh, I'd love to get him.
You got to have this
Yeah.
man. Him and I are walking up the stands in Denver. Like we're both scratches. And they start chanting, healthy scratch, healthy scratch. I'm just like,
Oh my
so finally get back to New York. I'm like, fuck this. Call my buddy. Let's go out. We go out and we tear it up. 2 small town kids in the big city. To the point where we get to the bar at like 2A bar at 2 in. And I go, we got any after hours bars around here? And she goes, you mean after we close at 4:30? I go, never mind. So 4:30, I get home at 5 a.m. Practice, I got up at 7, get to Rye for practice, but I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like literally the day before, I was the 8th defenseman. Like
you
I
fucked
had like a yellow
point.
jersey. I'm like, is this even color match for you guys? Like I have my own jersey, so I don't care. So I get there, grab my chocolate chip muffin and coffee. I'm hanging out in the locker room. I'm like, colors. It's like someone rearranged the furniture. I'm like, where's my fucking stuff? So I'm like looking. I'm like, because normally I sit there. It's got a red jersey there. That's not me. Yellow. So I start walking around and I go back to I go, oh, that is me. Grab the red jersey, which is Gretzky's line. I go to, I think Mike Fogland was the trainer. I go to, folks, give me the wrong jersey. He's like, Prongs. No, I didn't. I go, what? He goes, yeah, Kevin Stevens is sick. You're practicing with Gretzky. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Hung to the balls. I'm like, I go in the shower.
Stink like shit.
Oh my God. Crank the cold water. And I'm just like, what am I doing? I got to get my shit together. Like, this isn't right. And I'm like,
It had to be today.
of course it had to be today. So then I'm like, do I tell Gretzky that I'm hungover? I go, yeah, he's a guy. He'll get it. So I'm like, hey, Gretz, nice to have been on the team for a couple of months. I'm like, hey, Gretz, Sean Pronger. Nice to meet you. and I go, hey, I'm practicing with you today. Had a bit of a late night last night, so if you don't mind,
Just don't pass me the puck.
Pass the puck to Graves. He's like, no problem. I've been there myself. I'm like, oh. So now I'm thinking, all right, Gretz is on board. So then I'm like, all right. So I start thinking, and I remember an interview he had about him and Yari Curry, and him saying like, Yari and I just had a way, we just communicated without, we would have found each other if we were on a pond, right? And I'm like, what if? Like, what if something magical happens?
This is back to the draft when
exactly. Like, what if? I'm such a dreamer. I'm like, what if? Like, and we were doing so shitty that if we had any chemistry, like Muckler had to like keep it together. And so I'm out there skating around, like I'm skating around, like high step in the corners at practice, like it's the All-Star game. I'm just like, yeah, I'm with Gretz, guys. I'm with Gretz. I'm looking like, is anybody taking its picture? So then first drill is like a 3-on-2, like regroup, just to warm up. I'm playing the off wing. Gretzky fires over a pass, like wounded duck, off the backhand, over the glass. Let's go again. Same shit. We went like 4 times.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I'm like, I might go right off the ice onto the Greyhound bus.
Anxiety peak.
Oh my God.
It's undescribable.
So I'm not Yari Curry.
Apparently, all my dreams are shattered now. And I go at the end of practice. We finally get over with the practice.
You're telling yourself the whole time you're never drinking again.
Exactly.
That's it. You quit. For
Exactly.
life.
So I'm going to create a whiskey. So we at the end of practice, I go, Gratz, sorry about that. He goes, don't worry about it, kid. And he winked at me, and I'm like, you motherfucker. Fucking love it. You literally got me sent down.
Think, don't worry, we won't be together again.
Yeah, it's you're irrelevant. It's okay.
Well, I was going to say a lot of stories for only 3 months you were with the Rangers, then on the road against the Kings. Now, you played with Blakey. He was your teammate at Bowling Green, too, wasn't he?
I think he was there before, right?
Yeah, he was just before Bowling Green. Yeah.
Okay. Was he the reason that you went there?
He was one of them. Like, he was like the fact, because he was such a great player in college, and then he was turned, like, everybody knew he was turning pro. So it's like,
because at that time, had anybody came out of Bowling Green of significance?
There had been guys, but nothing like of his caliber. Like,
Who was that really good defensive forward? Holzinger?
Brian Holzinger.
He was there too?
Zinger, yeah. He was there when I was there.
So wait, so didn't Blakey take you out on your recruiting trip you mentioned?
He did. He took me out, and
we could quickly go back to Bowling Green.
Thank you. Yeah, the good old days. We went out. It was because I played junior in Thunder Bay, we played Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So I could never get to any college visit for the games. So I'd go on a Monday. So we went out Monday night in Bowling Green. And I don't know where we went and what we did. Like, I woke up fully dressed with like a beer opener on my hand with the coach banging on the door. Sean, we got to go. Like, I was going to go visit a class. And yeah, Blakey. So I saw him that day. He's like, "How was your night?" I'm like, "Holy fuck, I missed everything. Like, I missed everything." But yeah, Blakey, one of the all-time great dudes. Like, great guy. Obviously, great player too.
How was Big Bird as a coach, Larry Robinson?
Amazing. Like,
he seems like he'd be a legend of a coach.
I'll tell you this, and it was we had a tough time in LA. Like, I literally just got there, and there was a players only meeting. I'm like, they're like going around the room. Write down what the problem is. I don't give a shit what it is. Like, write it down. And I'm like, I literally wrote, I don't feel I'm qualified to answer. Put my thing in there. And then they start reading the shit. And I remember Ray Ferraro said, the problem that we have is Steve Duchesne.
No shit.
Like, just called him out. I'm like, holy fuck.
Wow.
And so then
to back up, Steve Duchesne is who at this time?
He was a defenseman with the Kings. He was an offensive defenseman. I think he went on to he might have won a cup in Detroit after.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
I think.
might have been.
So he calls out a teammate in the room. This, like, what did
I just got there. I'm like,
what's that game show when they put out the tiki torch? Survivor. You guys have like the notes of reading off who's getting voted off the team.
Yeah, we're pulling the things out. I'm just like, is this fucking happening?
Did him and Duchesne go back and forth?
Not really. Duchesne did like water off a duck's back. He might not have been listening.
I kind of respect that.
He's like, yeah, you're right. It is kind of.
I'm playing like shit. You're right. I am the reason why we're not winning. You're right. But one of the things was, for Larry, like, if we win, like, don't mix up the lines or lineup. Like, keep the same lineup. And I'll say this, like. And Larry was like so passionate, like that guy was so passionate about hockey. We did a meeting and he was literally in tears because we weren't winning and he couldn't.
And all he did was win.
And yeah, this guy has got 57 Stanley Cups. He's got 6 as a player and like 6 as a coach, or like he's got a lot. And he just is so passionate about the game and cares so much that he's like literally in tears, like talking about like what we got to do. And then, we have this meeting and like, okay, don't, let's not mix up the lineup if we win. And so, I was in the lineup, we won. And then, you get to the lineup the next day and it's like the 4 lines and then it's like Pronger / Johnson on the wing.
Literally my whole career.
Exactly.
Are you
the inside slash or the outside slash?
It didn't matter. I knew I wasn't playing.
Right.
If I had the slash, I was the guy out.
You were the slash.
Yeah.
You better have a fucking good warm-up.
It was like a rigged game of a coin flip.
Oh my God.
2 sides with the same
Totally.
2 heads.
Oh God, I hated that. And so Blakey sees this and he goes to Larry. He's like, hey, we talked about this. You can't fuck around. So Larry comes in, wipes off Johnson's name. One more game. I could play another game. I think we lost that game, then I was out the next one.
Feel like, man.
But Blakey went to bat for like a 5th liner.
You kind of look like Blakey a little bit. You could
Yeah,
be a
he
stunt
does.
double.
A little bit, yeah.
You guys have very similar noses too, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Bob,
Whiskey nose.
Like, yeah.
Exactly.
yeah, the
Wish
Bob
they get a
Hope-
whiskey tan.
like
Bob
the ski slope tits.
Bob Hope
Yeah.
knows, yeah. Then after that, free agent. You're a free agent for the first time.
Wave in the offers, guys. Come on.
July 1st, guys.
Can't wait.
I need a cell phone now.
Well, welcome to Boston. So you came
Do I need a fax machine set up in my my tent? Boston. That was late in August. In case you're wondering. That was a late signing.
You're like,
This is how much we have left. Take it or leave it.
am I going to Greensboro?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Boston. Signed with Boston. Pat Burns. Harry Sinden was the GM. Pat Burns was the coach. Like, oh my God, that was. And then Ken Baumgartner was assistant, who I played with in Anaheim, who was one of the all-time greatest guys.
He was tough as shit,
Oh
right?
my God, he's a menace and like really bright guy too. Like it's like, not that you have to be, not smart to be tough.
Well, we know biz, so.
So anyway, so Boston was fun. Ray Bourque was there. Joe Thornton was 18 there, which was
That was the season he played like not all the games.
Played like 6. He scored 6 goals or something like that. Like it was not like he was young, but like I will say this about he has not changed him like at all. Like this guy is hit
it hard, right?
Oh my God.
Just wants to be around the
Oh my
boys.
God.
You
I
can
saw
tell
him
by now.
Yeah.
he's
So no
still
bad attitude. Sorry, but
Oh God, no.
No. You're good. You're good.
No.
yeah, it seems like he's just always like because that year I didn't know if he'd be like, what the fuck, but he didn't.
No, like he didn't give that impression. I mean, mind you, I was only there for a minute, so. But I mean, he was awesome. But Ray Bourque was there, and in training camp we had this drill. Like it was a skating drill. So there's a group on each. So blue line, like, and then same on the other side, and you just skate around. So like you're chasing the groups. So Bourque was in one group, and everybody basically caught up to Bourque's group, but nobody passed him.
Yeah.
So like the whole training camp is behind him. And he's just going around. And then we're all just following him.
He's
giving him
the
the
guy
stink eye.
being like, "Don't pass
Don't
me
you
in the group." You
there. He
fuckers.
was awesome.
That is so
What a
good.
great guy.
You were in Providence for a chunk of the year. Peter Laviolette was your coach
Lavi was
back
the coach.
then.
They just won the championship the year before in the American League. And I come rolling in there, after playing 200 games in the NHL, and they named me captain. It was not a good experience. I will say that.
No,
Lavi was an awesome coach.
Outside of Wayne, who were you the most maybe starstruck to play with when you got to one of your locations?
That's a great question.
I mean, you had Brian Leach on those
Leach.
Rangers teams too. Like who?
I mean, outside of Gretzky, I would say like Brian Leach, starstruck.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, Timu. I got Timu and Paul, but like I felt like I was buddies with those. Like when you get to a new spot,
Yeah.
like watching Yager was like just to watch him. Ray Bourque would be another one, and then I'm trying to think. Then it was Columbus. We were just like kind of a collection of like cast-offs.
So
Columbus was like an Ohio State football player.
Yeah.
we've talked about all these places you've bounced around, but I would imagine at a certain point it kind of beats you down a little bit, going up and down, playing for all these different teams. I did read that it was in Manitoba where you kind of reestablished your love for the game, right? Like you became captain there, you started putting up some points, and you probably felt like you were part of it and you had a home.
It was. I'll say this. It like reinvigorated my career. Like, I came from Providence where I was like,
I wanted to ask about that. It was just were you just kind of down in the
yeah, it was just like like
I'm over this.
How many times can I get punched in the face and like sent down and this and that and like, you know what? Maybe it's and then if you're having a bad game, I'm like, what am I gonna be a firefighter? Like I should look into that. Like,
Hey, it's crazy. That was me too. At the end, you start actually being like, oh, what am I gonna do? Like, and when you're going and you're young, you don't even think.
No.
And then as you get older and you're still a professional hockey player and other careers, like what will I do after? That's when you kind of know.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of coming.
I'm winding it down here. Like to PHPA, they have a life after hockey program, so I'm looking into that shit. And then I got traded like from Providence. I didn't even know if that was possible. Like they traded me to Winnipeg.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I'm like, oh shit, okay. Well, I grew up going to this. It's like a NHL rink. I'm like, okay, close to home. So I go there, and they run it like an NHL team. Randy Carlisle was a coach. It was awesome.
God.
Like,
yeah,
it was
with boy.
yeah,
wasn't
this
a
is
huge
pre
Ryan Whitney
NHL
fan.
Randy. This is like he's still in the in the minors, getting to the NHL. But that dude is awesome. Like prickly.
He's a very funny guy. I'll say that.
Well, he loves to challenge you. Like he'd be on you right until you say, "Would you fuck off?" He'd be like, "Finally."
He's like,
Exactly. Such a fucker.
but he made you captain.
I was assistant captain. I think when
Did you guys have a little run in the playoffs?
we had not that year, but the next year we did. Like so, I was there. We lost out in Long Beach, the best of 3. We lost 2 straight.
You're like,
So
I'm
we went
staying
out
in
with a
Long Beach.
whimper. We went out with a whimper. And then the next year we played. Next year was like we were like an independent like IHL. So we had guys like we had Ken Reggett from Detroit. We had guys from each like older guys from a bunch of other.
That must have been crazy to see these old school guys come into like a minor league at that time, right?
No,
'Cause these guys have stories.
Yeah, no, it was
way crazier.
It was
than yours.
awesome. You get Sean Burr, like just I don't know if you've ever met. I mean, he's passed away, but like he is a absolute character. But like having older guys, it just felt better. It was easier to like play and do stuff because like they're the similar like experiences, right? Everybody's been kicked in the balls.
At that point, was the AHL or IHL better than the other, or were they like dead even?
I would say the I would have been better back then.
Really?
Yeah, because it's like older, like there'll be older guys. These are guys that have like less upside. Like they're at kind of where they're at, where you've got the American League where the younger
prospects
they had way more like upside, but they just were like young.
With Laviolette and Randy, like, could you kind of see, or you're not surprised that they ended up being successful NHL head coaches?
Yeah, I knew Laviolette was going to be good.
Really?
For sure.
Because he must have been young then.
He was young. Like it was like I'm trying to think like his 3rd year, 4th year, like coaching.
The guy just brings teams to cup finals. It's like
Then he was the coach of Philly when Chris was with the Flyers. Like I remember seeing him, in the locker room. I'm half in the bag and like, Lavi, why'd you fucking trade me?
From the wives room.
Yeah, exactly.
Were you surprised he didn't get the call up from the Bees? Because I think everybody in Boston was like, "Oh, this guy he just won a AHL championship." And
back then,
they passed him over for I don't know, not Burns. They passed him over for somebody.
They passed him over for
was it for Torek?
No, Dave Lewis, right?
Was it from
I thought
Detroit?
Dave Lewis was in Detroit.
Yeah, no,
but
he was
Lewis
also
was
head coach
of the
as well.
Bruins.
Well, hey, you just who
Maybe it
you
wasn't.
just mentioned as coach. You had Pat Burns while you were in Boston
I did.
for a little bit.
I had
right?
Pat Burns. He was awesome. He was tough as shit.
No nonsense.
Oh my god! But like he was more harder on you, I think, like on the players when you were winning. Like he'd like keep on you.
I heard
like,
Daryl Sutter was like that.
yeah,
too.
and like when you were losing, he would like. I mean, he was fucking hard, but like he wouldn't beat you up in the media and stuff like that. Like he was hard nosed, but I mean. The practices were pretty simple. Like there's a lot of battle drills.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, I fucking hated those practices. But there's actually a funny story. I keep forgetting to tell. Matthias Tamander, I don't know if you remember that name.
Good D-man.
Yeah, solid
He was
D-man.
great in L.A., right?
Yeah. But so he's in Boston. I think we're in Arizona. We have like 3 days off. It was, like, trying to think, we either playing or waiting or whatever. Anyway, so we're practicing. And it's the 3-on-2 regroup drill. And he goes,
Your kryptonite.
and he wants to go D to D to the winger. So Matty gets the pass. And I think Darren Van Impe was the other D. Fires it over to Imper off his like ankle. Do it again. D to D. No, Tamander, Imper off his like fucking head. Do it again. They went like 7 times.
It's just like you reading the numbers the other day.
It's like 7. He goes like 7 times, and then Burns is like, "Get the fuck off."
Oh, no.
Kicks him out of practice. Tamander. So I see him in the locker room after practice. I give him a hug. And I go, "Buddy, you're gonna be all right." He goes, "I just was a healthy scratch at practice." Got punted in practice.
Scratched from the practice.
Oh my god. Yeah, it was tough. And then like the whole Ken Baumgartner had to cut me. So I was his teammate 2 years earlier. On the plane, we're last exhibition game in Boston against Montreal. In Montreal, we're on the team plane back. We're playing cards, and I can see a bomber like coming out of the coach's area in the front.
You're like, not
and
me,
he's
not me,
walking
not me.
back, and I'm like, keep going, buddy, keep going, keep going. I'm like, yeah, hit me. Keep going. I just feel him like come in behind me, and just sit there. And I'm like looking next to like Rob DeMaio. I'm like, well, he's not getting fucking tapped. So I'm like. I go, Bomber, I feel you back there. He's like, yeah, just let me know when you're done playing. I go, I'm not done playing.
I'll never be done playing.
He's like, he goes, Sean, you're going to make me do this? I go, fuck. Put my cards down. I'm like, do the dead man walk up to the front of the plane. Because I literally say, they're coming back. Because I saw him take another guy. I go, oh my God, they're shooting people on the plane. They didn't want to wait till the next day. Like,
Just tell me when we land.
it's just a lot easier if we just do it right now. Because I got a dinner when I get home. Yeah, that was tough.
Although then, at least if you get cut on the plane, you go all in on every hand because you're not going to have to pay your debt.
Blue light, you never see it.
Exactly. Can I get a marker?
Yeah, exactly. Well, like most guys on the way out, you went and played a year overseas. Unless you wanted to ask him about where was he wash right before he ended?
He was at Columbus. You actually had a pretty decent stretch in Columbus, then Vancouver.
From Winnipeg, I got. This is a very little known fact that I was actually part of the Islanders team. I was playing for Winnipeg, getting paid by Boston. I was in a grocery store for whatever reason and grabbed and opened my paycheck, and it had an Islander logo on it. I'm like, what the fuck? So I call my agent. I go, hey, any idea why I have an Islander logo on my paycheck? And he's like, no, let me look into this. So as it turns out, I was traded. My rights were traded from Boston to the Islanders because the Boston was over the 50-player max. So they just gave me to the Islanders, basically.
You could get away with so much shit back then.
Before the internet cost you a first rounder now.
No one told me anything. I'm like,
cap circumcision. That'll cost you a first rounder.
So the end of the season happens. We're playing like our end of the season golf thing or whatever, and I get my buddy of mine's like, hey, have you checked your cell phone? I go, no. Well, your wife's trying to get a hold of you. I'm like, why? It's like, well, I don't know. Fucking call her. So I call. She's like, yeah, have you talked to your agent? I'm like, no. Call agent. He's like, hey, Columbus just picked you up on waivers. I go, I was on waivers?
Nobody even told me.
Right. Apparently the Islanders are like, well, we don't need this guy. Let's put him on waivers and get rid of him. And Columbus picked me up. So that's how I got back to Columbus on a random waiver.
Well, I was just going to ask about Germany, and I also heard a story where you went in the locker room and challenged your teammates or something like that.
I did.
So like not a very good last year send-off playing overseas where you're going there, you think you're going to travel, have a great year, present you with your jersey at the end of the year, and I will remember you.
It was going to be magical. Like I was going over there thinking I'm going to play for another 4 or 5 years. Like, that was my plan. And it was the most frustrating time of my life. I got a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old, and we're over there. It was miserable. I was playing awful. The whole thing sucked, and it just had a breaking moment. And I this is probably 4 months into it, and I've never been this frustrated in my life. I was like swimming upstream, I did everything wrong. And I get in the locker room. I literally kick the door in. All the guys are like, there's 12 North Americans, 12 Germans roughly. It's like half and half or 10 and 10. I kicked the door in, and I just I go, I'm so fucking sick of this country. Any of you fucking Germans want to stand up here and go right now? Let's fucking go. And I'm like half joking, but half serious. And like, obviously, I think people like from North America go through, like, I think somebody goes through it all the time. Like at one point, someone cracks. And so no one really looks up. All of a sudden I hear like, I'll go you. And it's oh shit. It's our 6'4" trainer who's a boxer.
Oh no.
And I'm like, okay.
You're like, no, I'm cool. I'm at plays. I don't have plays.
Yeah, you're good. So I turn around, I'm like, all right, let's go. We square off in the dressing room, and I'm still half joking. And so I'm like, and I go to fake punch. Like I was gonna punch and like miss and pull it back. And he leans in and I drill him right in the fucking eye. He goes down. I'm like, oh God, I am dead. So he gets up. I give him a hug. I go, thanks, buddy. I needed that. And I just kind of like walked away.
And he didn't do it.
He didn't do shit.
No way.
I would have been dead. Oh my God. I would have been dead.
Like, I meant to do that.
Did you finish the year?
I finished the year. And then on the flight home, so I got a screaming 1-year-old, my son, who's bawling on the way into the flight. So I'm thinking, okay, it's 8-hour flight to Toronto. He'll cry himself.
That's hell right there.
Oh my God. So then we're at the bulkhead, like first class, and then us. So everybody coming on sees who's crying. And so it's just like, I'm like, get this fucking bird in the air. I'm like, done with this country. Let's get out of here. And so we're like just waiting to leave the gate. This old guy comes up and like sticks his head through the curtain, like kind of looking first class. And then kind of turns this way slowly and goes, you better shut that kid up.
Oh,
and goes back to his seat. I'm like, did he just say that?
Dude.
I go to like my wife. I'm like, did he just say that? She goes, probably. Like she didn't hear. Fucking, she wasn't really listening. But I'm like, I'm gonna go back there. All of a sudden, like, bing, we're gonna be taking off here. Like, so I'm like, all right, sitting there. I'm like,
you're fuming.
He's like 6 rows behind me. I'm like, fucking get that guy. So all of a sudden, like, take off. Bing, everything comes. Or the seatbelt comes off. I get up, go. As I'm getting up, his wife gets up to go to the bathroom. I'm like, perfect. So I walk past him, then I come back and I go, what kind of a man tells a 1-year-old to shut up? And he goes, what? I go, dude, I heard you. I was up there. My kid's crying. You came up there and told him to shut up. He goes, son, are you all right? He's like 65. He goes, son, are you all right? I go, no. And I sit down next to him. And I go, no, I'm not. But I'm so fucking tired of this bullshit because I've had a tough year. And he goes, I have 6 grandkids. I would never tell you shut your.
You just imagined it.
I'm just like, am I making up shit now? Like it was.
Unless he was fucking with you.
Yeah, he might have been. He might have been.
My oldest son was
You
crying.
fighting Bob Barker on the flight.
Exactly.
It's not real.
Peter Griffin and the chicken going down the aisle, just chucking them.
Totally.
My oldest son one time, he was crying. It was a 3-hour flight, but he cried the whole time. And so you're just it's like you can't even describe it. Like for people who don't like it, imagine the parent. I remember being like,
escape.
I was like looking for somebody to be like mad at him for it, just so. And then my wife's like, "Will you relax?" She's like, "The guy'd probably beat their shit out of you anyways if you found somebody that." But you're so on tilt when they're crying.
God,
you're just looking for
I thought
something.
you just go put them in the toilet and just close
No,
the
you
door.
throw them down the bottom with the dogs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as long as it's like there's compressed air. The air is fine down there, right? I think.
Need a proxy for your anger there.
Oh my God.
I got one last thing, I guess, is I mean, everywhere you went, even if you only had a few games, there was always a propensity for something big to happen. And you had 3 games with the Canucks that season. And you were there for the Bertuzzi Lawrence, and you were on ice.
Wow.
You were on ice for that, too.
I was on the ice
right?
for that.
That's fucked up.
154 penalty minutes in that game.
I was, you guys you've had Mayday on the Brad May?
Yep.
So that might have been Brad May's finest game ever. It gets lost in it. He had 2 goals, 3 fights. You think he fought Peter Royal twice and then fought, it was Ken something or other.
Mayday's a legend.
Oh my God. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. It was,
Did you guys know this is all going down?
no, it was not planned at all. Under advice of lawyers. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, you're not.
No, but no, it was not planned. Like, I mean, Steve Moore, somebody wanted to fight him, obviously. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, he crushed Naslin, right?
Give the backstory.
Yeah. So he, earlier in the season, probably 2 months earlier, Naslin at the time, I think, was the leading scorer in the NHL, I think, and was in a vulnerable position, and Moore hit him, like a shoulder. Like, I think it'd be very suspendable now, into like a head contact. But I think he was on his knees, and Moore kind of drilled him, and I think he gave him a concussion. And then the next time they played, I don't know why nothing happened. You know, Brad May, I think, put a bounty on his head after the game. And then I think the next game, they either Moore didn't play or nothing happened. So this is like the last game. But the game mattered because the year before, it came down to Vancouver and Colorado for home ice advantage going into the playoffs. And Colorado won that game, got home ice, ended up winning. Like, Vancouver got bounced in the first round. So this game mattered because I think it was still a jostling for like home ice advantage. And so before the game, Crawford who's the coach. He's got the roster here. He's like this, you know. He's got Korea. I think Solani and Korea were on the.
Yeah.
This guy's got to pay a price. 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 And then Steve Moore was like the 4th line center. And this fucking guy's got to pay a price. And so that was it. Like, nothing else was said. I think we would go out there.
And Bert and Naslin had a crazy connection.
Oh yeah,
They
no,
were
I mean that's
incredible
like
together.
It was them and Morrison, and they were just
they were awesome together. And you know, I'm sure Bert felt like, I let this happen to my buddy. Like, I'm not letting this shit happen. And so the game started, and it got out of hand immediately, like with goals. So if the game was close, I don't think any of this shit would happen. But it was like 5-0 after the first for Colorado. Matt Cook fought Steve Moore, and then everybody else is trying to get at him. And he's not answering, like he's not fighting anybody. And if you watch the video, I come out on the ice, and like the best thing that he could have ever done was to fight me. But I'm like, I want to stick it around another game. Like, like we're getting close to the playoffs. Like, if I can just stay here, be great. So I'm trying to, do something. So I like cross check him, like, hey, let's go. He won't even look at me. He skates away. And then like he skates away and then gets into like missile lock of Bertuzzi. Like, he crosses his field of vision, and Bert sees him. And like is like hitting him, like turn around, doesn't turn around, follows him, grabs him by the back, and then you see him drill him, and then the pile up ensues. And like that was in 2004. So I'm on the pile. So I'm the 4th guy on the pile. So it's like Steve Moore, Bert, I think Nick Alishin was on, and then I was on top of him. And Nick Alishin is screaming like get off, like, and you can see the blood, like just, it was awful. It was awful. And then so I'm on the pile. The next time I saw Todd Bertuzzi, like they got him out from the pile, off the ice, out of the rink. Then the next day I got sent down back to Winnipeg. The next time I saw Bertuzzi was 4 years later in Anaheim Ducks practice locker room.
No shit.
Yeah.
No.
And you're right in the pile of the match.
And I'm in the pile. I never saw him till.
Did you know it was going to escalate to where it got to, like right as soon as it happened?
No, I I didn't.
Nobody knew he broke his neck.
Yeah, he broke his neck. It was like I didn't. Like, I
But
didn't
just
see,
even after the game, like the way
I
it
had
was
no
being
idea.
talked about.
No idea. Like I didn't think it was gonna be. I didn't think he was gonna be that severely injured. Like I didn't see the hit until later. I saw the results, which was awful, and then the whole mood and the thing was, oh god, it was awful. It was an awful thing for him, for everybody. Yeah. And obviously for Moore.
How about Brad May? You mentioned him. 5:45 of ice time. Scored 2 shots. He scored on both goals. 47 penalty minutes.
Oh my god! So if you watch, he
That's
scores.
a stat line.
And a +1.
Yeah, he scores, and we lost 9-2 or 10-2.
9-2, yeah.
And he scores almost identical goals where it's a pass in the corner. So he's driving the net, scores, skates right back around and tries to fight the goalie. Both times. Like it's like that was probably the most impressive 5 minutes of hockey.
Stat line.
I mean,
Absolutely.
that's
a wild
Actually,
stat.
I lied. I got to ask, what happened in Europe with Dougie Waite? That was another.
Oh yeah,
Is it
they say that like the international incident without Dougie Waite, but there was no incident. It was just being in Germany when he came over. And yeah, he was fun to play with. I mean, I think I went.
What do you mean? He came and played in that German league?
Yeah, because it was the lockout, 04-05 lockout. So he came over near the
Canceled.
tail end of the. As soon as it was officially canceled, he came over and played. For a couple months, and yeah, we're roommates. I was done playing there, and I'm like, I think I had no goals.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, Dougie comes over, and they got me on his line. I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
The pucks start going in the net. I'm like, all right. And then, then I think I blew up my MCL, and then that was the end of it. I went out with a whimper.
Yeah.
What a run, though. I mean, everyone check
unreal.
out this book.
Yeah.
Like I said, Journeyman by Sean Pronger with Dan Murphy. Is that Murphy and Van?
Yeah. Greatest guy.
Is there one in there that you didn't tell on the pod that's like your go-to craziest story of all time?
I will say the Gretzky story. So the Gretzky story is my kind of what I tell all the time, like getting drunk and then having to practice with him.
That's unreal.
Yeah, but yeah.
Well, this is great. I'm looking forward to this. So thank you so much, Sean.
Yeah, great stuff.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, you
And
bet.
best of luck with the whiskey.
Yeah,
as well.
guys. Thanks. I've been waiting for 8 years to get on this thing, so I appreciate it.
Now, maybe to stir the pot a little bit, is there any story about your brother you feel like sharing to get him going?
I just love that after he bullied everyone his whole career, you actually were bullying him his whole youth.
Yeah, I mean, I would stories of Chris. I think he should be the one to tell him, but you got to ask him like the interact. I'll say this about Dan Murphy, who's a broad, sports.
Yeah, I love
He's
Murph.
awesome. That dude could have propelled his career if he only told the stories of my brother. Like he was on the inside of so much shit and never broke the story. Like never.
You can trust him.
He's got
You
him
can
in the
trust-
vault.
He is the vault.
He knows where the bodies are buried.
Look at that. It wasn't lying to you right
Look at
there.
that. That's awesome. Thank
I
you.
bought the digital copy back like 10
No
years ago.
shit,
Yeah.
eh?
Yeah. Still
That's
on there.
cool. Your mom threw you a surprise retirement party.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though.
Well, thanks a lot, Sean.
Oh, thank you. It's been,
Yeah,
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Sean Pronger. Awesome guy. We appreciate him coming on. I know it was a long time. I hope he wasn't upset we waited so long, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. And Biz, one thing we did forget to mention last week was the video that went viral of Big George Laraque giving some little pointers to the Rempire State Building, Matthew Rempe, training with Laraque, the uppercuts. I don't know.
Did you
What'd
see
make of that?
those
You think that-
uppercuts? Did you see those uppercuts? Those were vicious uppercuts. You know what that tells me? He's sending a message to the rest of the heavyweights in the league saying, I'm training with Laraque and I'm going to come speed bag you motherfuckers. And there has been a revival of the heavyweight division ever since Rempe entered the league, and it ain't going away. He is sending a straight fucking message, man. And those uppercuts look nasty. Some people were having a chuckle online about it saying, it's not very realistic. But hey, he's a strong, big guy. He's got that reach. And the way, and the thing, some people might say, like, what's going on here? Well, when I started fighting when I was at the Pittsburgh organization, mind you, I was a defenseman. Yes, I would fight, maybe 5 times a season in junior. And then all of a sudden I got switched to the wing. I was playing defense at the time, and it was kind of the writing was on the wall. And luckily the team had Dennis Bomby, and I would work with him sometimes on grappling and how to properly grab the jersey off the hop. Did you want to grab it in the middle? Did you want to grab it closer to the arm? How did you gain positioning? And it was kind of almost a little bit like, is it jiu-jitsu when you grab on the tarp?
I think jiu-jitsu, you're more laying down on the mat.
Yeah, but you're maybe it's I'm trying to think of what one it is when you're more grappling and you're grabbing onto the jersey and you're learning how to control your body and stay up. So, he's still young in the game, and I would imagine he's never been leaned on this much in his career, where a lot of the focus of what he does is going to be running around, stirring it up, and ultimately fighting other heavyweights. So why not master your craft? I was taking boxing lessons at one point. I was doing stuff on the ice with Bombi. So to me, this is a good thing. And yeah, maybe the uppercut video was a little silly, but nonetheless, I'm looking forward to seeing where this all goes next year as the heavyweight division gets bigger and bigger and there's a revival.
I will preface this with, and I think most listeners are well aware that I can't fight my way out of a wet paper bag, but in watching Rempe, I don't necessarily think that the punching was the issue. It's more like I would think Laraque would be like, hey, you got to protect yourself a little. And I guess that's what you're talking about in terms of where you're grabbing and grappling. But it just seemed like, he was willing to just throw bombs, but he was leaving himself open. And maybe it's more of like figuring out a way to protect yourself a little, because you're not going to be able to last, dude, if you're just going toe to toe. It doesn't work like that.
Well, that's not true, because guys in the past have, like going back old school, and I actually appreciated the fact that he was willing to go toe to toe with guys. I agree with you. It wasn't the way that I fought. You have to protect yourself if you want maybe a little bit more longevity, but if you go back to the 80s, those guys were fighting 30 times a year and they were having punch in the face matches. So maybe he's trying to bring it back to that, but I also think with his reach and his size, that's probably why George reached out to say, hey, if I teach you these little tricks, not only are you going to be able to defend yourself better, but you're still going to be able to get your punches through. Like what he was doing with those uppercuts, when sometimes some guys grab you, you go over the top a couple. Like Curtis McDermott's good at it too, where sometimes you come up, you come down on the other side
to break the arm bar, right?
You break that grasp that he has on your jersey, because Dennis Bombi wouldn't let go. And that's why if you look at his hand, none of his fingers point in the right direction, because it's hard to hold on to those jerseys when those guys.
It's like an octopus.
You look, my octopus teacher on his hand, and then so he's going up, down, and then you can come through with that uppercut if you have enough power, and he most certainly does. So I'm interested to see what type of tricks he does teach him. George was known a little bit for the way he would merry-go-round. He would
because he would tee up his left, dude. He would swing around then just fire that left.
Right. He had a very unique style of how he fought. I liked the Jersey jab because I was a pussy and I didn't want to get caught anymore, because I didn't know how much more punishment my nose could have taken. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got on the Rempe stuff. Some more news. Kuzi. The Birdman, the Birdcelli, is no longer in the National Hockey League.
Back to Russia.
4-year deal. He ended up signing, and he agreed to mutually part ways on his contract in the last year, where I think he was set to make $7 million, or maybe just a little bit more north. What do you make of Kuzi going back to Russia?
I think that he must be making so much fucking money, because what did he agree to? Was it 1 or 2 years? 1 year left.
1 year
I
left.
think?
1 year left on a $7 million. I think it's just under 8 then.
I mean, he goes back to Russia as a super skilled player who will light that league up. And I'm thinking it's like a 4-year deal for $20 million US, right? Like the amount of money that they have. And then you're back in Russia. It seemed like even though he got to Carolina and had some quick success, by the end of their playoff run, like he was almost kind of back to like not necessarily the old Kuzi. He's probably looking at it like, I could be in the minors. Who knows? I'll go back home. I'll get a huge payday. I'll play in the KHL, and I'm done over here. I mean,
back to the
that's
Basel.
What's amazing for these guys is they get to just go home and play hockey in their country and make a bunch of money once they're done here, right? It's like you have to go over there when you're done over here being a North American and just suck it up in Russia. Yes, the money's amazing. The living, not so great. So now he goes home. He's got all his family and all his friends, and he makes a bunch of money. Makes sense to me. The KHL biz, they made a little bit of news with their new, they're going to have an attempt at an overtime change.
I think I told you guys.
You did say this.
I think Gretzky talked about making this the change where the minute the attacking team crosses the red line, in 3-on-3 overtime in the KHL, the team with control of the puck, you can't go back across the red line to your own side of the ice. We call it ragging the puck. So if they don't like the look they're getting, they bring it all the way back, and it's chewing up too much time with the 3-on-3. So sometimes you can have these amazing chaotic games where it's back and forth, but other times you could spend 2 minutes of the overtime where it's like a quick one and done. Then they attack on offense, don't like what they see. All right, let's pick it back over the red line. Okay, let's go back. Nah, don't like it again. Bring it. So next thing you know, 2 minutes have gone back, and you haven't had this where if all of a sudden you get squeezed outside of the offensive blue line, it's the junior hockey league in Russia, excuse me, not the KHL that's doing it. My understanding, I thought the K was doing it. Hey, man, we're in the off-season. We're in off-season mode, folks. My apologies.
I believe the Junior Hockey League is testing it out for the KHL.
Okay.
And the KHL posted it on all their accounts.
So Kuzi won't be getting jammed up at the red line. But the reason I like it so much is like it creates probably a little bit more offense where all of a sudden if you get squeezed out of the offensive zone and then you don't have your guys back for you, you have to make a play. You have to beat a guy probably one-on-one as you're getting squeezed off close to the red line because you don't want the over and back rule from basketball biting you in the ass. So I love it. It makes the wheels spin a little bit more, and it ultimately leads to more mistakes and more goals, which we don't want to see shit going to shootouts. Shootouts suck. I fucking hate shootouts.
Yeah, shootouts are a bummer.
Yeah.
But they're better than a tie. But I do think if you're going to take it out of the offensive zone, the red line comes pretty quick, so all of a sudden you could see some 2-on-1s the other way. If a guy's kind of stuck, like you said, with no support, doesn't really have anything to do with the puck, and he gets pressured, and boom, you get a chance the other way. So that could create basically a quicker ending game. What I noticed this year, though, was, there was teams that would win the face-off of overtime, and they'd have the puck till the thing ended. Like, they were so adamant about if you don't have anything, just go back, regroup, and change. And then maybe you get a shot. If you get the rebound, boom, same exact thing. So it became a little bit boring. It became like you said, the weird thing is that some of the overtimes would be back and forth, 2-on-1, 2-on-1, 2-on-1. And then the other ones would just be like, all right, well, they're just playing for a shootout at this point. So I'm interested to see how that works.
That would be the one. I would be okay with ties in the NHL. I say fuck the shootout. I say give me two
fans,
more.
I think paying customers, like with your kid, you go and no one wins. I think
let me ask you this. Do you think fans would be down if you said, we'll give you 2 more minutes of 3-on-3, but no shootouts? What do you think they would vote for?
I think fans would want that, but I think players wouldn't, and I think they'd argue over that. You talk about adding time to the games, and the PA
2 more
out.
Fucking minutes?
I know, dude. I'm not saying it's correct, but the PA goes nuts about that stuff.
Well, you don't think they're going to go nuts about extending the season by 2 more games, 84-game season? I'm hearing the next.
I think all of them. If you're going 2 more games for 84 and dropping preseason games, I think they'd take it. Preseason games stink unless you're a guy that's like, I got to play well here to give myself a chance of making this roster. Well, but the roster players are like, oh my God, this sucks.
Couple quick things. Torrey Krug might be out for the whole season. That's terrible news. Sucks for St. Louis.
What a weird sounding pre-arthritic condition in his ankle. That's nuts. And I got a lot of, I was tagged in that a lot. Like, is this what you had? It's like, no, dude, my ankle was mush. I've never even really heard of pre-arthritic. I don't know how they figured it out, but that sucks for him. That absolutely sucks. I think that if he needs surgery, he would be out all season. But I don't think that's definite yet, as far as I read.
No, but it could happen. It's, I think, more likely than not, and that sucks. So if they lose Torrey Krug for the whole year, major loss on the back end. Drury in Carolina signed a pretty fair contract. I think that he's still got a little bit more to give, and with a few guys out of their lineup, he probably will be given a little bit more ice time next season. So looking forward to what he can do. Another little one here, the Lake Tahoe Night Monsters, the new ECHL team out of Lake Tahoe. Absolutely hate the name. The logo is junk, but apparently because it's going to be the ECHL affiliate of the Golden Knights, they wanted to incorporate the word night in it. So I don't know, man. Ain't exactly hitting the nose on the head like with the Golden Knights and the Seattle Kraken. It just, I don't know. I'll send you the team logo and you tell me what you think of it.
Send me over the jersey because I haven't seen that.
In other news, Kyle Dubas and Craig Custon's new book admitted fault in not signing Marner, Matthews, and Nylander before going to get John Tavares in free agency. So that's kind of one of the things we've talked about some of the major mistakes that were made by Kyle Dubas during his tenure as the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I would say setting the tone for those contracts was a major, major, major miss. Along with, I think, the Kadri trade was a major miss. And I would probably also say maybe drafting.
I mean, how about Zach Hyman being a major miss?
That's another big miss, not bringing him back because you didn't have the money, because you overpaid guys because you had to, because you set the tone Malone with the Johnny Tavares 11.5 in free agency. So the dominoes fell after that, and nice to hear a little bit of self-awareness, right?
Well, I
Maybe
actually,
learn
positivity for the Leafs. They hired a new director of amateur scouting. Did you see Mark Leach was hired?
Yes,
and
sir.
This guy was in Dallas for a long time. We've talked about how Dallas has drafted, and before that, he was with Jim Nill in Detroit. And how the hell is Detroit?
Ken Holland in Detroit.
No, but Jim Nill was in Detroit too.
What?
When Nill departed the Detroit Red Wings as an assistant GM to the general manager of the Stars in 2013, he took Mark Leach with him. Leach had spent 20 seasons with the Red Wings, the last 17 of those as an amateur scout, where he helped put together the clubs that won the Stanley Cup in 97, 98, 2002, and 2008. So this is a guy going to a team who has not had a ton of drafting success. You can't count Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, right? Yes, you picked them, but, I mean, they were both no-brainers, okay? Now, I'm sure there's some talented guys there that they did a good job with that I'm not thinking of right now. But overall, it's been like, what's going on with Leafs draft picks? There's got to be more there. Well, you're bringing in a guy who's been a top talent evaluator for about 30 years in the NHL now. So I think that's exciting. I think that I actually texted Shanny. I texted him, hey, have you guys hired a new director of amateur scouting? Because I was going to, put in the good word for one of my close friends.
I think he blocked my number after my Marner
take. And he goes,
take.
His response is hilarious.
I think he blocked my number after the Marner take, and I think that he wants the ambassador jacket back.
He's going to send someone to get that. I said, hey, Shanny, what's going on? How are you? I'm curious. Have you guys hired a new director of amateur scouting? He goes, Tree is well down the road with someone, but I will call it off right now. It'll be a hell of a pay cut for you, Whit, but you're hired. I said, I go, imagine me in the meetings. Okay, guys, this kid turned down a pink Whitney shooter at the party I was at. We can't pick him. So, a little bit of a funny that maybe wasn't so funny as I thought it was. But
I thought it was good.
Exciting news.
I just didn't have the energy to give you a big one there.
Thank you. And Chiclets TV, Las Vegas behind-the-scenes vlog will be dropping Thursday at 6 p.m. I think there were some great responses to our finals blog. I think people saw the madness that was happening. And
clicks to Fish. Incredible
unbelievable
edit. Long
work.
edit.
Elliot Fish, our guy, one of our masters behind the scene with Pasha, all these guys. Great job on that. And the Las Vegas vlog's pretty funny. I watched that today. So that comes out Thursday at 6 p.m. Sandbagger with Heat Daddy and Schmaltzy, August 22nd. And Biz and I will be back to chat a little bit more with you guys next Tuesday. We appreciate your support. Have a wonderful week. We love you all, Chiclets Nation.